Hey guys, welcome to part 1 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Hyuga Clan. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Chapter 1. The Incident. Childhood Arc. The Incident. Alone again, he wandered through the darkness. He cursed the tears that were still in his eyes, even though he had vowed to never cry due to sorrow or anger again. In his 6 years, young Naruto had gotten used to the way people mistreated him. He had cried enough, and was sick of it. It didn't change anything about his life. Not that the adults openly abused him, at least not usually, but no matter what he did, people always seemed to blame him for something he did not do. For some reason, people always expected him to do the worst kind of things. No matter how hard he tried to please those eyes filled with hatred and fear kept staring down at him. He never got treated like the other kids. Never trusted. Never cared for. Never loved. He never once got a chance. And why? Young Uzumaki Naruto did not know why. All he knew was that the world was unfair. It frustrated him. But he was too weak to make them pay. Too weak to change a single thing about it. Today had been particularly frustrating. Even though Naruto had made a habit out of avoiding people, a few boys twice his age found him when he walked back to the orphanage. It had resulted in a firm beating. Sure, Naruto had tried to fight back, but he was too small. They were older, stronger, and outnumbered him. His powerlessness was enough reason to be angry. Why did they do such thing? There was no reason for such violence. There never was a reason. Not that they ever needed one. Kids like them just did beat him up because no one would scold them for it. They could do to him what they wanted. And as long as he did not end up too badly injured, the adults would rather approve of their behavior than scold them for it. In some cases, the adults had even encouraged the other kids. Like on his birthday, the worst day of his year. After all, who would care what happened to Uzumaki Naruto? He was just one outcast orphan. A child nobody wanted to see. Only the odd old man, Sarutobi Hiruzen, met him once in a while. And young Naruto could not even bring himself to complete trust him. Covered with bruises, dirt, and some blood, he had dragged himself back to the orphanage. Not that he liked it there, but it was the only place where he could go. With the lack of a better word, it was the place he called home. Not that the word ever had the same meaning it had for other children. There was no kindness for him there, no warmth or care. In fact, Naruto had only been in this particular orphanage for a few months. And he already hated it more than the previous one. He hated it because incidents like today happened with some frequency. Being relieved that he had finally reached his home, happy that he would not need to sleep on the streets again, he only found the warden shouting at him. Scolding him because he was so dirty. Because he was late. Before she shut the door before him, she remarked that if Naruto was acting like an animal, he should live like one. That he should live outside, like the stray dog he appeared to be. Vicious old cow, Naruto mumbled. True, the previous orphanages did not treat him well, but it usually came down to being ignored. At least, until they managed to find, or create, some petty reason to throw him out. But the warden of this orphanage really seemed to hate him. She enjoyed tormenting him as if he had done something to her. As if it was personal. Perhaps that was why she was the only one to volunteer after the last orphanage had thrown him out. No one else wanted him. They called him wild, dangerous, only because he had lashed back at one of the bullies that had tormented him in that place. Finally succeeding in fighting back the tears, the boy sighed wearily. Why do they always have to pick on me? He thought. What have I ever done to deserve this? He felt angry, but ignored the weird sensation that always seemed to follow whenever he became angered. Perhaps I should just kick them all out of the village when I become Hokage, he mumbled darkly. Jisen said people have to respect a Hokage, so when I become Hokage they will stop picking on me. Lost in thought, Naruto failed to spot the man that was rushing through the dark alley. Nor did the man spot little Naruto, as he was preoccupied with the people of whom he knew that they were chasing him. The very moment the man smiled at the thought that had shaken of his pursuers, he crashed into the boy, losing the bag he was carrying in his fall. What the? As he tried to get up, he looked at the little boy who was now glancing at him. Damn it! Get lost, you darn mongrel! His body hurt from the collision, especially his ribs as he was kicked there earlier that day. But Naruto did not mind this pain. Yet another person to shout at him. Another person who hurt him. When did it ever end? He snapped. The anger he felt before was nothing compared to the rage that now pushed away every other thought he had. This smothering emotion which flooded his mind. Somewhere in the back of his head Naruto wondered why his whiskers itched so much, or why his senses suddenly improved so much. All those thoughts were drowned in his blood-red rage. No more. No more. I've had enough. The man felt the boy's chakra spike. Impossible for a mere child, unless the man realized what the boy must be. Sure, it worried the man for a moment, but Naruto was no match for a fully trained Jonin. The man just knocked him out, before more of his chakra would leak out. The boy might be too weak to stop him, but his chakra could give away his position to the man's pursuers. And even though he was confident he could beat just about everyone in one-to-one combat, he was literally as the center of the enemy's village. Combat would equal suicide right now. Combat would mean a failure of his mission. An angry Hyuga Heihachi ran towards the place where the kidnapper was last sighted. No one would kidnap his daughter and heir and get away with it. As he got near, he activated his Byakugan once more, and spotted 2 members of the police force waiting for him, and several others spread out in the area. Where is my daughter? He angrily demanded to know from the most senior of the 2. Composure be damned, Heihachi had more important things to worry about right now. Hyuga-sama, we apologize, but the person who kidnapped her slipped away after the man stuttered, before being cut off by a nearby blast. Heihachi ran off before the agent could finish his sentence. Incompetent idiots, he growled. If only the kidnapper had not used those explosives to attack the Hyuga compound, more of his clan members could have tracked the kidnapper down, rather than clearing the rubble and search for survivors. If only he had been home, then he could have protected his family. Now is not the time for guilt, Heihachi reprimanded himself as he arrived at the scene of the latest explosion. In the narrow alley, the blast they had just heard had ripped right through 2 of the nearby buildings. But there was no one to be seen. Not a trace, even with his Byakugan, could be found. A distraction, the Hyuga growled. Seems like head ninja is not just an empty title. Heihachi already knew who had taken his daughter. His earlier suspicions must be right. Damn that treacherous village. Naruto's head hurt. It felt like someone was still using a hammer, or a similar heavy and blunt object, and pounded it into his skull. Aching and disoriented, it took the young Uzumaki a few seconds before his eyes got used to the darkness. Where had he gone? What he saw was some old room, part of what looked like a derelict building. The building was in an even worse condition than the abandoned shed next to the orphanage. And they had told him that the shed had been abandoned for 6 years now, an eternity to a young boy like him. But somehow, this building was even worse. Trying out his body, Naruto regained some feeling in his limbs, and started to look around for a way out of this mess. Last thing he remembered was walking into a strange man, and that this man had attacked him. A kidnapper. It made no sense to him. People would beat him up. Yes, but kidnapping had never happened before. Unless he carried something. Perhaps his target was not me. Naruto looked at his side, and his suspicions were confirmed. Next to him was a girl of his own age, tied up and gagged so tightly that she could not make a single sound. Let alone move a muscle. Her eyes spurred wide open when she noticed that Naruto moved. He froze for a moment. Looking right into her eyes, Naruto was confused by what he saw. She had eyes which Naruto had never seen before. Even though tears fell down from their corners, Naruto thought that the pure white eyes were the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen in his life. So pure, so innocent, yet at the same time they seemed to pierce right into his soul. Numbed from the kidnapper's hit, Naruto tried to get up. Much to his surprise, he was not even bound. Apparently, the kidnapper had never suspected that Naruto could recover that quickly from the blow. The kidnapper stood at the doorway, thinking how he could escape. Catching the heir of the Hyuga clan had been his primary objective, but he smiled at the thought of how his village would reward him when he returned with a Jinchuriki as well. Raikage-sama should reward me richly for this. But first I need to get out of this place. Their security is better than I had anticipated. This closed-off temple was a stroke of luck, but I need to figure out how to get across the walls without being noticed first. The kidnapper was a shinobi from Kumogakure. The Shinobigashira, our head ninja, of Kumo, ranked second only to the Raikage himself. Acting as a diplomat, the man was attending the signing of the peace treaty between Kumo and Konoha. Once he saw his chance, the man had grabbed his opportunity at night to execute his real mission. His masters from the Hidden Cloud village had preferred capturing the Byakugan over an unstable treaty. Though the girl he had captured was far too young to give birth, she had been of the strongest blood within her clan. And of the main bloodline, one untouched by that accursed seal of theirs. The Kumo shinobi knew that a decade of patience was worth the price of obtaining one of the strongest dojutsu that existed. Once she would be of age, they would make sure she produced enough children. Kumo would have access to the Byakugan within several generations. And with the loss of their Jinchuriki, Konoha's position would be damaged too much for them to afford a war with Kumo. It would be more likely that the other nations would tear apart Hai no Kuni, in its weakened condition. Even that peace-loving old fool of a Hokage would not be able to prevent their downfall, the Jonin smirked. But first he needed to get out of here first. After knocking out the Jinchuriki, the man had rushed towards the wall that surrounded Konoha, but security was too tight for him to escape while carrying both of his captives. Their response time was faster than anticipated. But luck was at his side once more, when he saw the sealed-off old temple. Oddly, the Jonin had not noticed the temple the day before, when he had been watching for possible escape routes. But across the bridge that spanned over the small lake, there had been the decayed building where he had found shelter. The ruin seemed to be an old temple, and it was conveniently located to the side of the mountain that backed Konoha. The temple was located at a small plateau that had been cut out at the foot of the mountain. From here, it was not even that far towards his left that the man from Kumo could see the gigantic stone face of the former first Hokage. Now what? How can I get out of this? Naruto thought, pondering on what he could do best now. He noticed that his kidnapper was looking the other side, so getting away on his own wouldn't be that hard. But that girl, should I abandon her? I don't even know who this guy is, or why he took this girl away. Clearly, he is on the run from someone, so he probably is not an ally of Konoha. In that case, maybe I should go with him. Wherever he's going, it can't be much worse than this place, right? But that would mean that I would abandon this girl to whatever fate is waiting for her in the place this guy is traveling towards. I can't let that happen, can I? Should I really risk my life for someone else? For someone I don't even know? Or should I make a run for it? Naruto looked at the pure, white eyes. She was strange, Naruto noticed. Most children around him seemed to hate him. He could feel their hatred towards him. He could describe the sensation, but he knew it when he was near someone who had strong negative emotions. And in his case, this applied to nearly everyone. But this girl, why does she feel so innocent? Abandoning someone like her would make me the bad guy. Think, Naruto, what would Jisen do? Looking at him, with her eyes wide open, it was as if she saw his dilemma. It really seemed as if she looked right in his soul. Naruto shuddered a little when he saw her frightened stare. He knew she saw his dilemma. And a single tear was her answer to his doubts. One tear which answered all of Naruto's questions. Careful not to make a single sound that could notify their currently distracted kidnapper, he dragged the girl away to another room. Naruto found himself lucky that she was gagged, or she likely would have drawn the kidnapper's attention. Not that he could really blame the girl for being panicked. After all, she would probably be some spoiled kid. Because she would have to belong to some rich clan if someone wanted to kidnap her like this. After he had dragged her to the other room, he started looking for a way to barricade the room. Or to escape. Naruto did not know what kind of knots the kidnapper had used, but he could not untie the girl. And the debris in this room was useless. Nothing was sharp enough to cut the ropes. Stay quiet, he whispered in the girl's ears. Don't move. I'll look around. The white-eyed girl paled even further, and nodded. Though, Naruto could see she did not like it that he left her there. But he couldn't drag her around either. Naruto was lucky that the wind caused the old wooden building to make enough sounds to mask his own slip-ups. Though he had practiced his silent movement for most of his short life, as he always tried to avoid drawing anyone's attention, Naruto could not avoid a few accidental creaking sounds. Sadly, the building was rather small, with a few small rooms and one large room in the back. That larger room was strange, not in the first place because of the strange sensation Naruto felt when he set foot in the room. He looked around and felt confused by what he saw. Masks. Naruto mumbled under his breath. On the wall at the back of the room there was a small platform, and on the wall, below the decaying curtains that were hanging above, Naruto saw the strangest masks he had ever seen. Those masks feel weird. Why were they abandoned in this run-down hovel? Naruto focused on one particular mask that drew his attention. All the masks were like the faces of demons, some broken, but most whole. Most demonic faces looked either angry, vile, or as if they were suffering from terrible pains. The one mask which drew Naruto's attention depicted a horned demon who smiled. Not an innocent smile, but rather a mischievous smile. As if it was taunting all it could see. Though he did not know why, Naruto grabbed the mask from its standard on the wall. The mask was not made out of metal or wood. It felt remarkably light. Bone. Naruto thought. He had seen dog carrying those things, and this felt very similar. What is this place? And on the back of this thing, writing. Naruto saw some strange drawing on the inside of the mask. It almost resembled some kind of seal, like the ones he had seen in the old man's office. Only, the weird thing was the spiral in the center of the drawing. It was the same symbol as Naruto could see on the top of the wall, on the place where the old mothy curtains were attached to the wall. What is the meaning of that spiral-like symbol? The head ninja had seen enough. Though the wooden construction looked unstable, the stairway was the only pathway to the top of the mountain he could see. It was worth the gamble. The Konoha shinobi would be searching in different directions, so the chances of getting away would be highest if he fled across the mountains. Going back through the village would be a no-go. I should strap that girl to my back, she is my primary mission. The man mumbled to himself. He knew he had an impressive enough physique to carry 2 children, without being slowed down too much. The Jinchuriki brat could just be carried along in the bag he had used for the girl earlier. If he somehow got into trouble, he could always drop the brat from the mountain. He had heard that, upon death, the creatures sealed inside a Jinchuriki would break free. And a rampaging demon would form the perfect distraction in case of trouble. What the? The man cursed after walking back into the forsaken building. The children were gone. He punched the wall near him. Of course he would heal quickly, he has a damn demon inside him. Stupid. I should have tied that accursed kid when I had the chance. With the mask of the mischievous demon in his hands, Naruto was sneaking back to the room where he had left the white-eyed girl. Then he heard shouting. Damn, he found out, the child muttered softly. What should I do now? Naruto had not found a single thing that he could use to untie the girl, other than a few splinters of the wooden building itself, so he wanted to return to her and try to look if he could find some other way out of their predicament, but it was already too late. Though, perhaps, if the man started to search in the building, Naruto could grab the girl and drag her out through the now unguarded front door. It is the only way out of this building, so if I move quick enough, it should be possible. Naruto remained careful, not wanting to be spotted by the man, and hurried to the room where he had left the girl who had shared his fate. But, again, Naruto was too late. The man had already found the girl, and looked quite stressed. Of course, that brat would leave her behind while he looked for a way out. Naruto heard the man talk to himself. Stupid, the man cursed. And now he probably slipped away. Damned monsters. They're all the same. Shit. He found her. I suppose I could hide myself, and let them go. Naruto shook his head. He knew the man was bad news. Naruto never knew why he could do it, but he always felt if people wanted to mistreat him. That was how he managed to escape the worst people. And this man had definitely no good intentions. This man felt worse than usual. And whether it was aimed at him or the girl, Naruto could not say. But Naruto knew could not abandon the girl. The sight of those white eyes looking at him, filled with fear, but also with a glimmer of hope, haunted him. She trusted him. He was the only hope she had. Naruto looked down to the mask. Perhaps I can scare him. And follow up with a hit. If I hit him between the legs, I might buy enough time to grab the girl and get away. Naruto looked around, and between the debris he found a chunk of wood large enough for him to use as a club. Nervously, Naruto waited till the adult was turned away from him. For some reason, the man was busy with the girl's ropes. Don't be foolish, brat, the man said, hearing someone enter the room. Naruto froze as the man stood up and turned towards him. What the? The head ninja had heard the kid. He was sure of that. But he saw nothing. What kind of joke is this? Damn it, I hate these demonic freaks. Not that Naruto understood anything of what was going on. He felt his heart thumping. For a moment he had lost all hope. But the man looked straight at him, but did not seem to be able to see him. The mask suddenly felt heavy though, as if it drained Naruto from his energy. Without further hesitation, Naruto jumped forward, stabbing his improvised wooden weapon into the man's stomach. Sarutobi Hiruzen realized his age began to slow him down. In the middle of the night, an Anbu shinobi had informed him about the attack on the Hyuga compound, as well as the chase that was currently going on. Hokage-sama, a boar-masked Anbu bowed as Hiruzen reached Konoha's outer wall. Report, Hiruzen ordered. There are no signs that anyone has passed the walls, the Anbu said quickly. Someone has attacked the Hyuga estate during the night, and kidnapped the heir of the clan. Hyuga Hiyashi has given chase, but most of the Hyuga are occupied with the danger done because of the explosion. Do we know who is behind it? No, Hokage-sama. Another Anbu jumped down. The gray-haired shinobi panted as if he had been running at full speed. Hokage-sama, the seal on the Uzumaki shrine was reported to be breached. Hiruzen blinked for a moment. That is not too far away from the place where the kidnapper was last seen. You people continue the search, I will go to the temple myself, he ordered. Move out. Kumogakure's head ninja was furious. He heard someone move around, but could not see a soul. And then someone stabbed him. Invisibility. He had lost patience. A man of his stature did not take it well when a mere child was playing trick on him. No, he was far too proud for that. Did the brat get some weird power from the demon he carries? Whatever was there, he would kill it. No more playing around. Visible or not, you'll die. Raiden. Mahi no Hado. Naruto did not understand what the man had done, but some kind of shock wave suddenly hit him. Every hair on his body stood out, and his mouth suddenly was as dry as if he had not had anything to drink in days. The demonic mask broke into several pieces when Naruto fell backwards, with his limbs moving uncontrollably. But there was no pain. Only a burning sensation, as if something in his stomach had caught fire, and the fire spread through his body. Grabbing two of the largest pieces of the now broken mask, Naruto tried to get up again, but his body failed him. The last things Naruto saw before losing consciousness were the kidnapper move towards him, and then seeing same man falling to the ground after something, or someone, else burst into the room. Then all vanished in the darkness. Chapter 2. The Honored Guest. Hyuga Hiyashi rushed to the Hokage's office. A silver-haired Anbu with a dog mask had informed him that the Hokage summoned him, stating that it was a matter of the utmost urgency. Not that he really wanted to, though. In fact, he was outright annoyed at the moment. He wanted to inspect the damage done to his clan, he wanted to see how his daughter was doing. The dog-masked Anbu had assured him she was doing fine, but he wanted to see that with his own two eyes. But he could not disobey direct orders from his Hokage, clan head or not. Hokage-sama, he bowed slightly. Only barely enough to show the proper respect which the elder Sarutobi deserved. Hiyashi. Hiruzen nodded, ignoring the man's restlessness. I am sure Kakashi told you already, but both children are at the hospital, where they will first be checked for injuries. I think they will both be fine, even though a little startled from everything that happened to them today. Both. Hiyashi frowned. Though, he quickly discarded that bit of news. What happened to Hinata? Apparently, the ambassador from Kumo was more interested in capturing a Jinchuriki and Udaughter than he was in the peace treaty we just signed, Hiruzen sighed. Fortunately, he triggered a seal upon hiding in a building. I found the three there, and I was just in time, or so it seemed. How is my daughter? As said, Hinata is fine. And from what I could see, it was because Naruto managed to slow the kidnapper down. Else, The man would have been on his way to Kumogakure before I had arrived at the scene. Uzumaki Naruto. Hiashi acts. Ah, of course, that child. Only now did he realize what the Hokage said. With all the adrenaline running through his veins, Hiashi was still rather distracted. It was one thing to keep your calm during battle, but when it was an attack to you family and clan. Hiashi. Hiruzen bowed forward over his desk. We both know how much influence your clan has, but I must ask you not to take any measures after this incident. We have yet to ascertain whether or not the ambassador was acting independently, or if he was executing a mission on behalf of Kumogakure. But whatever happened, I would prefer avoiding war. Hiruzen put up his hand when Hiashi stirred at his words. While the incident is disgusting me, I am not planning to let this escalate into something much worse. I do not think that this grave insult excuses the sacrifice of countless lives. The Hyuga have no interest in war either, but we will defend when we are attacked, Hiashi said. But if you will excuse me, I will visit my daughter first, before I make any decisions. Very well, but do not delay too long. There are parties within the village who are already scheming for an immediate retaliation against Kumogakure. I cannot afford to wait much longer. Pensive after his meeting with the village's leader, Hiashi barely paid attention when he strode through the hospital, towards the room which the receptionist had pointed him at. Oh, he heard his daughter squeak when he entered the room. Hinata. Hiashi smiled. Though it was technically not proper behavior, he could understand the child's tears. She did go through quite an ordeal. Are you all right, Hinata? The girl nodded, and quickly tried to wipe away her tears, knowing her father disapproved of such lack of composure. Not that she had much success, as new tears appeared just as fast. Hokage-sama saved us. But, Naruto-kun is fine, a female voice spoke from behind Hiashi. Not that he was very surprised, as his wife at times seemed to be aware of everything. Hiashi knew very well that if he was to be regarded as the best Juken practitioner of the clan, Hyuga Hitomi would be the one with the best eyesight. Hitomi. Hiashi. The woman smiled. Hinata is uninjured, despite the kidnapper's crude methods. Okawa-san, can I? Hinata looked up to her mother. See, can I see him? Is he awake? He is still asleep, she said gently. Hinata's face turned to the down, her disappointment obvious to her parents. But the clan owes Naruto-kun. If he had not stalled the kidnapper, at the risk of his life, the man would have been on his way back to Kumogakure before Hokage-sama could have stopped him, Hitomi added. Can we help him? Hinata begged. Hiashi looked at his wife, who was busy correcting a deviant strand of her daughter's dark blue hair. His wife took a strange pride in that their eldest daughter had the same color of hair as she had. We will, and should, Hitomi assure her daughter, looking up at her husband's frown. From what Hinata just told me, Naruto-kun could have chosen to stay out of it. He could have run for his own life and abandoned our daughter, but he did not. His wounds are not severe, but his tenketsu are strained. We could offer him a place where he could recover in peace, while we find a proper way to repay him for his role in today's events. Naruto can stay with us, Hinata said hopefully. Hiashi nodded. That would be proper. For now, I will convey this to the doctor, and ask Hokage-sama for formal approval. He emphasized on the last word, making clear to his wife that the case of Uzumaki Naruto was a special one. Not that he needed to tell her. Hitomi often paid more attention to affairs outside of the clan than he did. She knew very well who and what Uzumaki Naruto was. Excellent. I will arrange that my cousin Haruki looks after Naruto. If I recall correctly, the cottage next to his recently became vacant. I suppose it would be a suitable place for Naruto to remain. I can imagine that some distance from main building would be better for the child. And it would no doubt be preferred by many within our clan. Besides, if we would accommodate him inside the estate itself, it would create the wrong impression that we took him in. She smiled at her daughter. Shall we visit Naruto together, after he wakes up? Any thought of refusing his wife's plans vanished when Hiashi saw his daughter's smile. Even though he thought she showed too much emotional weakness, she was still his daughter, and he loved her with his entire heart. As much as the responsibilities to his clan weighed on him, he could still allow himself a humane side underneath his cold Hyuga facade. Hokage-sama. Hiashi. The Hokage answered with a tired voice. Meeting the elders of the council had been a very bothersome half hour. Any developments regarding the kidnapper? Did Kumogakure respond? The Hokage sighed. Ibiki has worked quickly. Interrogation revealed that the ambassador was sent here with a mission to kidnap a suitable female Hyuga, so that Kumo could gain access to the Byakugan. Hiruzen saw Hiyashi's eyes narrow, as he considered the implication of what was said. No father would like to hear his daughter was targeted for the children she could bear. It wasn't like Hiruzen wasn't angered by this, but he lived too long to know that he couldn't make decisions based on emotions. But he was not in control of the Hyuga clan. And if the Hyuga would demand retribution, with the substantial influence they had within the village, this demand could lead to war. It all boils down to what Hiyashi decided. Fortunately, things did not turn out that way, Hiruzen added with his weary voice. Now that the peace treaty is formalized, and we have quickly spread that piece of news across the borders, Kumo knows that their position is unfavorable. They cannot make any demands without revealing that they breached the treaty themselves first. Besides, we know that Kumo ordered their ambassador to execute this kidnap, and have proof of this. Kumo will not be able to try something like this again, not without damaging the diplomatic position it has with other nations as well. If this got out, no one would trust them again. I believe Kumogakure would choose an uneasy peace over an international scandal which could potentially lead to a war between them and a coalition of hidden villages. Hiyashi nodded. Though alliances and treaties were not respected as much as many would like, there was a consensus between the nations that those who broke a treaty within the same year should be considered honorless and could therefore be attacked by any nation without consequences to international relations. Even though the military prowess of Kumogakure was great, perhaps even being the strongest nation in the world, it would not withstand a combined attack from the other nations. Hokage-sama, the Hyuga will not officially blame Kumo, neither for the attempt to kidnap my daughter, nor the damage they have caused at our estate. We were fortunate that there were no grave injuries, and that Hinata returned safely. Hiyashi took a short breath before he made his request, knowing the sensitivity of the subject for Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was rumored to have an attachment to the boy. And even beyond that attachment, the village's Jinchuriki was deemed to be a creature outside of the control of a single clan. Else, the Sarutobi would have adopted him the day he was orphaned. But the potential power which a Jinchuriki represented was a thing which every clan coveted. And as such, would not allow another clan to have. But if the voices of the most powerful clan, the Hyuga, and the most powerful person, the Hokage, aligned, even if it was done in order to repay a debt, Hiyashi was shrewd enough to ensure that his clan would benefit. Hokage Dono, though I will not blame anyone, I would like to acknowledge the debt our clan owes. Your debt? Sarutobi answered wonderingly. Without Uzumaki Naruto, my daughter and heir would be on her way to Kumo. I would like to repay him, at least by sheltering him for a while. Hiruzen's eyes went wide with surprise at the request, and dropped back into his chair. For a few moments he stayed silent, considering the possibilities. Hiyashi, you know very well that this child cannot be attached to any clan. Yet his presence would remove my desire for retaliation. Sarutobi Hiruzen closed his eyes, and sighed. He then stood up, and made sure the door was closed and no one could listen in, before continuing. So either the Hyuga get their hands on Naruto-kun, or you will vouch for war. Hiyashi, you are well aware that this matter transcends simple local politics. You cannot reduce this situation to a mere gamble. If this situation goes south, it could result in a world war. I am well aware, and yet it does not change my request. But do not be mistaken. I do not wish the boy to become property of my clan. No, he would be my clan's guest of honor. Besides, we already took him in, and provide the medical care he needs for his recovery. Even if the hospital released him, it was obvious to us that his tenketsu were badly damaged due to the attacks he sustained. We could, with good conscience, let him walk out of the hospital without proper care. I assume you know what caused the damage to his tenketsu. The damage does not seem a result from an outside attack. And I suspect that a child of his age is not capable of generating enough chakra to withstand any jutsu cast by a jonin. Still, the child did survive an attack from one of Kumogakure's strongest shinobi. Knowing what resides with the seal the boy carries, I suspect that it is both the cause that Naruto survived, and why he sustained a lot of damage. I believe the Kyuubi forced some of its chakra into Naruto's chakra system, Hiruzen admitted. He looked at the face of the Hyuga, on whom the discomfort was obvious. You should know that Minato made the seal, and that it is easily strong enough to contain the Kyuubi for at least another 10 years. There is no danger from Naruto. Hiyashi inhaled as he considered the implication of what was said. Only 10 years. Perhaps longer. Perhaps shorter, Sarutobi admitted with a sad voice. It depends on the strength of the child himself. Both his physical and mental strength. And seeing how most people in Konoha are treating the boy, in spite of the laws I put in place in order to protect him, I think Naruto has faced a lot of trouble. Not that they openly act against him, they fear me too much to do such things, but still. You know as well as I do that there are many forms of pain. I suspect that the anger and hate which Naruto feels makes it easier for the Kyuubi to force some of its chakra into the boy. If that process continues long enough, it could affect Naruto's mental stability and that might give the Kyuubi a chance to break the seal. The Hokage started pacing through his own office, his sadness now somewhat replaced by an undercurrent of anger. The kidnapper stated that he accidentally ran into Naruto. I contacted the orphanage where Naruto lives and they claimed Naruto did not return on the night of the incident. Claimed. So you doubt their intentions? The warden clearly lied. But unless I fully investigate the situation, I cannot be sure. I don't want to draw too much attention to Naruto. His position as a Jinchuriki already draws enough unwanted attention. I had to transfer Naruto a few times already because I suspected that the orphanage did not treat him well. But you know why my clan could not take him in. And if I show too much concern for the boy, I even create the risk that my enemies will turn to him in order to get to me. And the other clans would not allow me to adopt him either, as the Jinchuriki should not be bound to a single clan according to the will of the council, last time it was put to a vote. I am aware of that, but this day changed my opinion of the boy. And you want my support in this, no doubt. When we treated Naruto, he was already covered with bruises and had 2 of his ribs cracked. The hospital did not seem to care, but our doctor suspected that those injuries were older. Hiyashi changed the subject. Months, or perhaps days. The rate at which he seems to recover makes it hard to be sure. But it is sure that the boy was injured before today's events. I think I will ask Ibiki to pay the orphanage a visit as well. Hiruzen said darkly. The Hyuga owe a debt to Uzumaki Naruto. He saved my daughter, and my clan's heir, from a fate worse than death. This is why I request to give him shelter for a longer period of time. At the very least, my clan owes him that. And yes, this will create some resistance, but there are plenty of people whom owe me a favor. But this will require your help, Hokage-sama, to make sure that this will pass through the council. I admit I had not expected such an offer, he said softly. Personally, I want what is best for Naruto-kun, disregarding the whole political situation. And I think your clan could at least see the difference between Naruto and his burden. I understand. In fact, my wife was adamant in this case, because she knew the previous Uzumaki who lived in Konoha very well. Hiyashi looked thoughtfully and remarked, considering his hair, his looks, his behavior, his name, and the fact that Kushina was pregnant at the time, it is easy to deduce who the father. Naruto's lineage is an S-class secret, Hiruzen warned. Exposing this secret is punishable by death, regardless of rank. Even the council is not aware, and I would prefer it to keep it that way. And I expect that those who knew Kushina that well, also know the reasons for keeping it a secret. Hiruzen paused for few seconds. Naruto has been the victim of several accidents before. I don't want to attract any more attention to him, especially from abroad. Iwa would go to war for this. And I highly doubt the people from Konoha will treat him very different if they knew the truth. I am afraid that many only see the monster, and not the boy. Do you intend to tell Naruto? Do you expect him to understand? No, I will tell him when he is ready. I would prefer not to burden him with the issues of his lineage and his prisoner. You will notice he hardly trusts anyone, always expecting the worst of others. I tried to talk to him at times, just like how Jiraiya, accidentally, met him a few times. But even to us, he hardly shows any trust. I cannot blame him. Hiyashi sighed. Hiruzen sighed. Very well, I will agree with your proposal. But I will compensate for the cost of his stay. Even if the Hyuga clan allows Uzumaki Naruto to live on their estate, funding him through my office would at least create the impression that he is not dependent on your clan. But, would you also be willing to provide him the education he needs? I would like him to become a shinobi, just like his parents. And it would be best for him, both as a person and as a Jinchuriki, to learn as much as he could even before he entered the academy. I do not think the civilian population will ever understand him. Hiruzen looked up, straight into Hiyashi's eyes. Even the majority of the shinobi would never come close to understanding his burden. I accept. Naruto will be taught and prepared for when he will enter the academy. He will remain on the estate as our honored guest and get a small cottage near the main building on the compound. Thank you, Hiyashi, Hiruzen said, when the Hyuga nodded and left the office. Once alone, Hiruzen slumped down in his chair. Out of the hidden compartment in his desk, he took a bottle of his best sake. Nothing worked better than a few sips of the marked man to cure him from his tensions. And this day surely excused a fair amount of sips, even from this expensive bottle of sake. He felt heavy. And very, very tired. As if he had not slept for days. A sensation which he, sadly, knew all too well. Hostile environments tend to make people rather paranoid, and paranoia is not the best recipe for a good night's rest. But for some strange reason, Uzumaki Naruto found himself lying in a very comfortable bed. The most comfortable one he'd ever experienced. And there were all kinds of strange objects around the bed, just like when he was at the hospital last year, the day after his birthday. Odd, Naruto thought, how the hell did I get here? And this isn't the hospital. Is this prison? The warden said they would put me in that place if I didn't behave. Naruto grabbed the white clothes which were lying next to the bed on a dresser. They were not his own, but he did not see his own clothes, so this just had to do. He would rather steal than get stuck in prison because he got caught for nudism. Wait, how did I get here? I was in that old run-down place, that big mean guy did something, and then I wake up here. But where is here? Before Naruto got the chance to figure out what had happened and where he was, the door opened and a tall man with white eyes appeared. He appeared to be in his 30s, but it was a bit difficult to estimate, due to the exhausted look on the man's face. Good morning, Naruto-san, the man said. Oddly formal and polite, unlike everyone else Naruto had met before. Well, Jisun and that strange toad man were nice to him. But they were old and strange, so Naruto suspected they just were different from normal adults. And this man had regular brown hair, not white or silver. So he could not be that old. But he didn't feel wrong either. Should he run? Or try to act friendly? Naruto was at an impasse at how to deal with this newcomer. The white eyes scared him, though. Hello. He forced the words out of his throat. I see you already got out of bed, how are you feeling this morning? The man remained patient and polite. No shouting, no scolding, it actually unnerved Naruto more than the usual treatment he received. Feel me, good I think. Wait, what is this place? Where am I? Who are you? Is this a weird hospital? Am I in prison? I didn't do anything wrong. Calm down Naruto-san, the man chuckled, seeing the child's confusion. My name is Hyuga Haruki, and you are at the Hyuga estate. When we found you, you were wounded. You were recently attacked, and we also found that some of your ribs were broken and that you had quite the number of bruises. I am here because I was asked to check up on your condition. Did that answer all your questions? The tall man answered with a small smile. What's a Hyuga? Naruto flapped out, even though he remained on guard, as if he expected the older man to lash out to him at any moment. The old man was too friendly, so something fishy was going on. Aside from the Hokage and the Toad Man, no one had ever been this friendly to him without some kind of ulterior motive. And Naruto half expected the Hokage and Toad Man to have some kind of hidden agenda as well. Hiyashi-sama will explain that to you when I am ready. The man gently pulled Naruto to the bed, so that he could sit down. Please remain still for a moment, he said, and then he just looked at Naruto with his white eyes. And somehow the veins around his eyes bulged out, freaking out Naruto. Though Naruto wanted to get away as quickly as possible, those freaky eyes urged him to remain immovable. Still confused by all those pupil-less eyes, and whatever it was that happened to him, Naruto was walking alongside the man who had introduced himself as Haruki. Aside from the hospital, Naruto had never been in such a clean building. And this one was more luxurious than anything he had ever seen. Haruki had said something about a speaking hashi, which he knew to be a fancy word for chopsticks. His preference for ramen had taught him some good things as well. He had heard the stories at the orphanages, even though they were not meant for his ears, about the talking chopstick. Though he thought it would be a bit silly, Naruto guessed that rich people like this could also own magical shinobi stuff, so speaking hashi would not be a big deal to them. Haruki turned left, and opened a door to a larger hall. "Greetings, Naruto," another white-eyed man said when Naruto entered. Hello. Naruto acts, still utterly confused. This was a plain man, and not a chopstick. It actually disappointed Naruto a bit. The confusion did not escape the white-eyed man's attention, but he seemed to be expecting it. "My name is Hyuga Hiyashi, head of the Hyuga clan. I was wondering if you wanted to eat something with me." Naruto nodded, though his stomach agreed even more, and so loudly that Naruto had to blush and hastily apologize. Naruto's curious eyes were cast down immediately, as if expecting Hiyashi would try to hit him. Hiyashi swallowed his annoyance. Is this how people raised that child? Haruki left the room and quickly returned with a platter with some food. Then excused, and left the room. Though initially disappointed that there were no talking chopsticks, Naruto soon forgot about that when he saw all the food. Only once in his life he had eaten such nice food, and that was when the old toad man had taken him to something the man had called a restaurant. But these were places that were usually forbidden for him to enter, just like most of the shops in Konoha. This must be the best orphanage ever. Naruto suddenly exclaimed. "Well, this is no orphanage, Naruto-kun," a gentle feminine voice spoke up. The woman, with long dark blue hair, walked into the room and took the seat next to Hiyashi. "Greetings, my name is Hyuga Hitomi," the woman introduced herself, "and I thank you for saving our daughter." "Daughter. 4 days ago, you aided in the rescue of our daughter," Hiyashi answered. 4 days. Naruto pondered, and then shrugged as he continued eating. After 2 bites, however, he realized what was said. "I stopped that evil man." "Evil?" Hitomi asked, somewhat confused. Naruto tilted his head somewhat, as if he was considering telling them the truth or not. Yeah, he felt evil, he decided. "I do not know how to call it otherwise, it's not sight or smell, but I definitely felt that he was wrong. If he can sense malice, the Kyuubi's influence might stronger than I anticipated," Hiyashi thought. Aside from everything he had to manage for the repairs to the compound, he had also taken the time to research several of the records on Jinchuriki and their abilities. And Mito, the wife of the Shodai Hokage, had this peculiar sensory ability. "You saved our daughter, who is the heir of our clan. As such, we would gladly thank you, and offer you to stay at our estate." Naruto looked like his brain just exploded. "I don't need to go back to the orphanage. Is this a joke?" he asked cautiously, prepared to have his hopes shattered. "No, Naruto-kun, it isn't a joke," Hitomi smiled gently. "If you so wish, you can live at the small cottage next to that of Haruki-san." "If I wish," Naruto frowned, as if his mind could not process their words. "Seriously. It's not a joke. You're not. Yes. I am mean. Thank you." He quickly stood up and bowed deeply. Both out of gratitude and in order to hide the furious blush on his face. As such, Naruto moved from an orphanage into a small cottage near the main building on the Hyuga compound. Even after a few days, Naruto still could not comprehend why they let him stay there, but even Jisen seemed to be happy about it when he visited. The Hokage's visit also made it clear to Naruto that this wasn't a joke, a dream, or a hallucination. Not that the white-eyed people seemed to like jokes, though. They all seemed oddly serious, quiet and reserved. Well, Haruki seemed to be a little different. At least he smiled, from time to time. Though it was scary how much the older man knew. Not as scary as when he changed his eyes though. Pretty soon, Naruto spent nearly every day with Haruki, as the latter took charge over his education. The 2 other exceptions to the regular Hyuga were Lady Hitomi and her daughter, Hinata. Naruto could not understand the latter. Not at all. The girl was of his age, but did not chase him away like most of the children he knew. Did not call him names. Did not try to hit him. She didn't do that. In fact, she didn't do anything at all. Instead of the mistreatment Naruto expected from those of his own age group, Hinata blushed every time he saw her, and seemed to be unable to speak. Though he thought she had said something which resembled, "Thank you," the first time they had met after Naruto had woken up in this peculiar clan. Naruto really did not know how to act around her. She was of high birth, so Haruki urged him to watch his behavior, something which Naruto had to struggle with anyway. All the san and sama stuff was really confusing to the little boy at first, but in the end he managed. But Hinata, her eyes seemed to have something that no other person Naruto had ever met before had. Nearly all the Hyuga had that cold and calculating look in their white eyes, but Hinata was different. Beyond that, it was strange for Naruto to meet someone who was invisible to his other sense. It gave Naruto an oddly naked and blind feeling. Not that Naruto knew how to properly talk with her, no one of his own age had really done that. Even at the orphanages, both because he was often kept away from others and because he was often moved. Still, there were many more things which Naruto could not comprehend. For one, why there was such a difference in how the white-eyed Hyuga behaved. One group was humble and reasonably friendly, even though distant. The other group, however, barely took the effort to notice him. As if he was too low for them to even want to see. Haruki-san, why do so many Hyuga cover their foreheads? Naruto asks in one of his lessons. There is a difference between the main house and the branch house, Naruto. The main house is the family of the head of our clan, while the families of the branch house serve the main house. So are you of the branch family, Haruki-san? Naruto asks upon looking at the man's head protector. Yes, that is why I am assigned to take care of you, as you are the honored guest of our clan. And as I retired as a shinobi shortly before you moved in, this became my new task. It's certainly more interesting than gardening, Haruki smiled. You were a shinobi? Naruto asked with his eyes wide open in surprise. Could you please tell me about that? In his small cottage, living next to his caretaker, Naruto spent 3 years within the Hyuga clan. Haruki taught him etiquette, cooking, gardening, and generally just everything he needed to know to live a normal life. Hiyashi's brother, Hisashi, from time to time, helped Haruki with Naruto's combat training. For some reason beyond Naruto's understanding, Haruki was not capable of exerting his body, even though he could teach the theory and stances. But where he initially was capable of sparring with Naruto, he soon grew too weak to do such strenuous things. And though Naruto was, officially, a guest to the clan, he happily helped carrying chores in his spare time. Especially gardening was something Naruto found very satisfying to do. And it gave him some chances to interact with other people from the branch family as well. At the very least, it could be said that young Uzumaki Naruto was not bored in his time growing. It probably saved Konoha from quite some pranks which he might have pulled if he had been bored. Not that Naruto was always well behaved. But pulling pranks on people who seemed to see everything was a bit difficult. Well, the other children he could trick, but Naruto still preferred to stay away from those of his own age, as he had never forgotten the orphanages. In his experience those of his own age were the cruelest to him. Though, to his amusement, Hinata always seemed to be embarrassed when she didn't notice him on time. Haruki always berated him for teasing a main family member though. But Hitomi never seemed to mind. For some reason the wife of the clan head always seemed to tolerate his deviant behavior even when most frowned upon it. Especially the elders of the clan did not hold him in such high esteem. They, and with them many others, avoided him whenever they could, or ignored him if they had been unable to avoid him. Still, these 3 years were, by far, the best of his life. He did not even notice that the weight in his stomach had lifted as he grew happier. But this happiness was not supposed to last. The day he had to go to the academy came closer. And Naruto was not really looking forward to his first day at the academy. But for the Hyuga, it seemed to be a celebratory event. Hiyashi and Hitomi invited him to a party, which was thrown in honor of their daughter Hinata, who would enter the academy at the same day as he would. As Naruto approached the dining room, he frowned at the thought that they would have the same classes. Naruto never really understood the girl. She avoided him just like all those who disliked them, and blushed in shades of deep red as if she was really mad at him. But she never said anything, and always avoided looking him in the face, especially when he directly looked at her. Perhaps he could determine whether she hated him as much as he feared she did. In his defense, young Naruto had only met the disapproval of others in his life. How was he supposed to expect anything different from others? Before Naruto reached the doors of the dinner room, though, he smelled something familiar. Well, smelled. What do you call this sense, if even Haruki didn't know what I mean, Naruto thought. Still, it disturbed him. Usually he only felt such a thing near people who wanted to hurt him, so he looked around. It does not come from the kitchen, nor the living room. Guest room perhaps, Naruto thought as he walked towards the said room, noticed voices. I assure you it'll work, just spread the powder over it, a whispering voice said. If you say it will do the trick, then who am I to doubt you, another voice answered sarcastically. Do not forget your position. And the cinnamon rolls are powdered anyway, so no one will notice the difference. Well, next morning they'll know, the first voice answered with a soft laugh. And perhaps you could try to offer one to that fox brat as well. Who knows if we are lucky enough to take him as well. Odd, Naruto thought, they talk odd and feel odd. That guy almost feels as foul like that one elder with the funny nose. Naruto spurred open his eyes at the realization. He quickly regained his composure before one of the branch members, tasked with serving dinner by the look of his clothes, left the guest room. Where is the bathroom? Naruto asked innocently, but the man just looked coldly, pointed, and moved on. Hey, good thing they rely too much on their eyes, and have such bad ears, Naruto though, smiling a bit as he recounted the times he exploited his much better hearing. But now I'll need to go to dinner, and quick. Whatever they put over the powder, with that intent it can't be good. Probably poison. Again. As Naruto closed the doors of the dining room behind him, he had finished planning a way out of this mess. Sure, it was quick and dirty, but Naruto was convinced it would work. Welcome, Naruto. You're late, Hiyashi said accusingly. It would work, if Hiyashi cooperated. Naruto grinned and scratched the back of his head, a gesture Haruki couldn't get out of him, no matter how hard he had tried, and simply stated, my apologies Hiyashi-sama, I got distracted on my way here. Hizashi muttered. Kakashi, while massaging his forehead, which made Naruto notice it wasn't just the head of the clan, but also his wife and children, along with his brother and cousin who attended the private celebration. Well, it doesn't matter today, take your seat Naruto, Hitomi said with a gentle voice. Appetizers have just been served so you're just in time. Naruto took his seat, next to Neji and opposite to Hanabi. As the branch member passed him, to put the last plate on the table, the cinnamon rolls which Hitomi and Hinata liked so much. Naruto decided that the timing was right to ask, with his most innocent voice, may I ask what you put on the cinnamon rolls? The branch member only froze for a fraction of a second before he recomposed himself, but Hiyashi noticed. And before the man could start to attempt talking his way out of it, Hiyashi asks, why do you ask such an odd question, Naruto? The latter chuckled, as he knew Hiyashi was suspicious. And he knew the clan leader well enough to know that he wasn't the type would let go easily once something drew his attention. But, Naruto did not want to lose the momentum, so he just told the truth. Well, as I walked towards this room, I heard something interesting had to be put on the cinnamon rolls. And since they said that it wouldn't be noticed due to the powder which was already on them, I merely got curious as to what would be different. And why it would be so interesting. The branch member paled, and backed away, looking for an escape route, but Hizashi already stood behind him. What is the meaning of this, Katashi? Nothing Hizashi-sama, I. Quit your stuttering, and answer my question. What did you put on those rolls? Nothing. Oh, only what I had to, Katashi said, before he tried to get away. It was a futile effort though. With the two best Juken practitioners of the Hyuga clan next to him, Hyuga Katashi of the branch family merely took 2 steps before he was paralyzed. Sadly, that was also the last thing Katashi ever did, as he suddenly twitched and suffered an unspeakable pain as his caged bird seal was invoked. While Hitomi ensured her daughters and Neji left the room, Hiashi gestured Naruto should stay put. Then, Hiyashi's anger was pointed at Hisashi. Find out who is responsible. Now, he growled. It had to be someone of the main family, but who would betray him? He needed to know. No one would hurt his wife, nor his child. Even though the performance of the latter was disappointing until now, Hinata was still his daughter. And the idea of someone of his own family trying to hurt them, a cold fury took hold of Hiashi. Yes, brother. Hisashi bowed and left. After a branch member confirmed the extra powder to be poison, as already expected, Hiashi turned to Naruto, who had patiently remained in the room after the hand gesture from Hiashi earlier. Thank you again, Naruto. You saved the lives of both my wife and my daughter. If I hadn't been a bit late, I would have missed it. It was merely coincidence, Hiashi-sama. Blind luck. Coincidence or not, this is the second time I am in your debt. If there is anything the Hyuga clan can do for you, please ask. Naruto closed his eyes while thinking if there was something. Then he just shrugged, and said, there isn't anything I would want, though I am curious of one thing. Why do some people refer to me as Fox? Many people talk about it when they think I cannot hear them. And they seem to mention me with that word. It's either Fox brat, demon child, or just simple, that, when they refer to me. The seemingly simple question caught Hiashi completely off guard. I am sorry, Naruto, but I will have to ask you to wait till tomorrow before I can provide you an answer to that question. Chapter 3. Academy Years. Without making much haste, Naruto followed Hinata and her guard Ko to the academy. After the events of the day before, Naruto had hardly slept, due to overthinking what happened and what was said. Time after time, the scene replayed in the young boy's mind. How bad was the situation really? Naruto had realized through his years living among them that Hyuga strongly restrained themselves when it came to showing emotions. And as the clan leader, Hiashi especially did not easily show any surprise. The man was, after all, the prime example of what a proper Hyuga was supposed to be. Though, in Naruto's view, Hiashi was also the epitome of boredom. How terrible would it be to always keep up that mask of his? The only variation Naruto knew to his regular mask of neutrality was when he displayed his dismissive mask. In that light, Naruto knew very well that the fact that he stumbled over Naruto's question was not something to be taken lightly. Even at 9, Naruto knew that Hiyashi's slip was a matter of great importance. But why? Naruto couldn't fathom what it could be that was so important about him. He often wondered why people hated him, even if he had done nothing wrong. He sometimes wondered if his parents had been criminals, but never found any answers. He did not know a thing about his family, or about his own origins. All he had were a date of birth and a name. And even the latter was a subject of frustration. He carried the clan name Uzumaki, but he could not find much about them. Even in the books from the library at the Hyuga compound, which Haruki provided him, the Uzumaki were only mentioned as being a clan from Uzushiogakure. The only other hints at his own wrongness were the occasional mentions of the word fox. But foxes had nothing to do with the Uzumaki. The only fox which Naruto had learned of, which was as hated he was the demonic creature called the Kyuubi. Naruto could not resist the chill that crept up his spine as he thought about his conclusion. He had a seal on his stomach, was born in about the same time the demonic fox attacked Konoha, and people called him Fox. Maybe he really was the Kyuubi, but simply did not know. Perhaps he had lost his memories when the famous Yondaime Hokage had beaten him. Or maybe it had been a result of what the man, whom had been one of Naruto's idols, had to do take away his power. Because it was obvious to Naruto that he was powerless compared to that demon. And then what? If he was right, what would happen to him? Would his powers recover, and return to his demon form once again? And when? So lost in his pondering, Naruto failed to notice that Hinata had stopped walking. The result? Well, Naruto knew that she'd be mad when he bumped into her. Still, he tried to save the situation, and with his quick reflexes he was fast enough to catch her before she would hit the ground. Though this, as usual, only made things worse for the young Hyuga heiress. Whether it was embarrassment or anger, Naruto could never tell. But considering how people usually treated him, he assumed the latter. Still, Hinata was someone with whom Naruto had a hard time understanding. She acted so differently from all the others he knew, that he usually ended up being confused with how she behaved around him. My apologies, Hinata-sama, Naruto said. She blushed until even her ears were crimson. Great, now she hates me even more. Oh, well, I guess this is it, pretty small place. I expected the academy to be a lot bigger. Shall we go in, Hinata-sama? He quickly continued before the frowning Ko would scold him for his indecent behavior. No surprise there, that stuck-up Ko-tem always seems to think I'm not even worthy to look at. Prick. Why yes, Hinata mumbled, looking away from him. Then let's see if classes are as boring as Neji-san said they are. Naruto tried to hide his discomfort, and attempted to lighten the mood a little. But considering the shades of crimson which Hinata still displayed, he failed miserably. So he sighed, entered the building, and left the two Hyuga behind. So, how was your first day at the academy, Naruto? The Hokage asked kindly. Well, it was more interesting than I expected. Though, I guess Haruki-san already taught me most of the things I've heard about today. You know, history about the shinobi of Konoha, and so on. That part was pretty boring. I can imagine, Hiruzen chuckled, before turning more serious. I understand you asked a question yesterday, Hiruzen nodded to Hiashi. Yes, Hokage-sama. I overheard people talking about me and they called me a fox. Well, not that they realized that I could hear them, Naruto added quickly, after seeing Hiruzen's angered expression. My hearing is just a little better than most, so sometimes I hear things others don't expect me to hear. And, like the attempted poisoning yesterday. Hiruzen interrupted. Hiashi told me about the situation, he gestured at the clan leader standing with them in the office. Well, yes, I heard someone talk, and I knew it wasn't good, so I interfered. But the talk about the fox confuses me. Naruto frowned. He hesitated to speak his mind, but decided that the quickest way to get it over with was just to axe. Even though his traitorous voice faltered. J-Jisen. Am I the Kyuubi? Hiruzen paled, and from the look on his face, it was clear that Hiashi had not expected this direct question either. Hyuga diligence or not, this surely created a few crack in Hiashi's stoic mask. No, you are not the Kyuubi. And don't you ever think you are. Hiruzen exclaimed. Oh Naruto, he sighed and suddenly seemed to be older than Hiashi ever saw him before. The truth is that you are not the fox, but that you imprison it. That is why my successor, the Yondaime Hokage, placed that seal on you. Despite what many think, even he was unable to kill it, so he had to seal it away. So, you are not it, but you are its prison. Naruto nodded and listened to the Hokage's explanation. Not that he fully comprehended the situation, but at least he was not a demon himself. At least, he decided to take the old man's word on it that he wasn't. This demon thing also explained the behavior of others towards him, why they radiated such fear and hatred towards him, even when there had never been a reason for it. Why me? Naruto eventually forced the words out of his mouth. He felt tired, exhausted, simply because he had to process this piece of information. You were the last Uzumaki. You were the best candidate for it, the only candidate, Hiruzen said softly. The village was under attack, by something we could not hope to defeat. The Yondaime had to act quickly to avert the village's total destruction, and because of you he could save countless lives. A silence fell, uncomfortable even to Hiashi. The latter knew the truth, and could see how much it pained Hiruzen to talk about these things in front of Naruto. Though, he understood. He too would rather give his children a normal childhood. Unfortunately, our world doesn't allow us such things, Hiashi sighed. I am so sorry, Naruto, Hiruzen continued, his tired voice filled with sadness and regret. I am sorry for the sacrifice you were forced to make. You keep the fox at bay. By all accounts, people should see you as a hero. But instead, all that people give you in return for your sacrifice is hatred. Hatred, because of the Kyuubi and their own ignorance. Naruto scowled at the thought. Why would people insist on blaming him for something he didn't even do? For being something he was forced to be. Why was the world so unfair? Naruto, please try to understand that at the time, half of the village was in ruin. Hiashi saw Naruto's conflicting emotions. That day, everyone lost friends, family, parents, and children. The people had lost their homes, and lost their leader. All that was left to them was a little baby who now held the monster inside him, the monster which was responsible for all that suffering and pain. Hiashi sighed. I know it must be difficult for you, and I agree, it was wrong. But people had so much sadness, that they took it out on you, the only thing left of the Kyuubi. It is, as wrong as it is, the response was unavoidable. We believed you would not understand, Hiruzen continued. I believed that the truth, while you were still but a child, would only make your burdens even harder to bear. And I didn't want to burden you any more than you already were. That is why I forbade anyone from telling you, Hiruzen admitted. There were those who wanted to kill you for what you are. Those who experienced the pain the Kyuubi caused, but I hope that by forbidding anyone to speak about your burden, and forbidding them to act against you, I could at least give you a somewhat happy childhood. A tear fell from his old eyes. I am sorry that I failed you, Naruto. The boy heard it all, but stood there as if he was frozen. When Hiruzen finished speaking, Naruto stood up and left the office, not wanting to show anyone his tears. Tears of anger, sadness, and relief. Relief that he was not the monster he had feared to be. He didn't know how to feel anymore. Though he realized he had yet to understand the magnitude of his problem. Hinata was worried. Not about herself, for a change. No, she knew well enough that she always disappointed her father, as she had little courage and even less talent. Her mother seemed to be the only one who was not worried about her shyness and accepted her as she was. No, she was worried about someone else. And she hated herself, as she did not even possess the courage to speak to the boy who saved her life. Who saved her not just once, but twice. She was found herself despicable. Yesterday, Naruto seemed very sad. Hinata thought it was because what happened to Kakashi-san, but her mother said that it was not the case. She would not tell her why though. Why don't you ask him about it, Hinata? She had replied to the girl's questions. But as they walked to the academy, flanked by Ko, she only noticed his pensive look. And instantly lost what little courage she gathered. During the break, Hinata watched as Naruto sat down on the swing in front of the academy. He looked so lonely and sad. She realized she was pressing her index fingers against each other again. How can I be bothered by my nerves while Naruto-kun is in trouble, she mentally scolded herself. Hello and Naruto-kun. Startled, as he had not noticed her getting near, Naruto nearly fell of the swing. Regaining what little composure he had left after that action, he replied, Hello, Hinata-sama. Are you all right, Naruto-kun? She asked hesitantly. Even his way of speaking was unlike the Naruto she knew. He was too pensive, too fragile. To her, Naruto was a shining example of strength. And to see that example acting like this, it just didn't feel right. Yeah, I'm fine. Fine, Naruto said sheepishly. He still held that absent look in his eyes, even as he spoke. Although, when she remained silent for a bit, he suddenly seemed to wake up and realize whom he was speaking to. Hinata almost giggled as she saw him scratching the back of his head. Especially because she knew how much time Haruki had spent on it. By the standards of the Hyuga, such tics were a sign of bad manners. But no matter how hard Haruki tried, Naruto stubbornly continued to do it. Even leading Haruki to lament that Naruto just didn't seem to think before he would act. If I may, I'd like to. You don't seem to be very happy about going to the academy. Naruto frowned a bit. Well, most people don't seem to like me much, so I just stick to myself. He tried to smile it away. Hinata saw it bothered him, though. She had seen his subtle glances at the other children of their class, and how they played and laughed together. To Hinata, it seemed as if he wanted to join in, but for some reason he wouldn't. Do you mind if it eat lunch here? She asked while blushing furiously. Naruto squinted his eyes and looked at her, wondering if she was serious. Of course I don't mind. But there's no seat. Wouldn't you rather go inside, Hinata-sama? I am fine. She waited a moment to gather the courage for her next question. Would you like something to eat? I have too much. And I noticed you forgot your lunchbox, she squeaked. Please. Naruto seemed to be completely puzzled, and for a moment Hinata expected that he would just turn her down, causing her to fidget even more. Would he turn her down like everyone else did? Ah, sure. Fine. Thanks Hinata-sama, with a very strange voice, as if he did not believe this was real. Naruto sat down on the grass beside her, not comfortable on the swing, and ate a little from the food stuffed in her, far too big for a single person, lunchbox. Is this why Okawa-san gave me this lunchbox? Hinata realized. So that I could. Though they ate in silence, as she didn't trust her voice anymore and he was too confused about her sudden change in behavior, Hinata rejoiced. Finally she was a little closer to him. Finally she managed to cross that frightening distance between them. She was painfully aware that Naruto was only a few foot away. So close. She looked on as he ate, noticing the movements of his whiskers, the somewhat confused look still in his bright blue eyes. She looked at his beautiful golden-colored hair. She still recalled the first time she saw him. Why would Hinata-sama do this? Naruto pondered. I thought she disliked me like everyone else, but now she just offered me food. Maybe she wasn't angry anymore. She never seemed to like to talk to me, but at least she didn't run away this time. Well, whatever it is better than it was before. And the food is nice too. I should thank her, but how would I thank someone of the main house for such a gesture? As he looked up, he realized why it had become so silent. Hinata had stopped eating. She had fainted, her face still bright red. The teachers don't seem to like me very much, Naruto realized. They weren't too happy when he brought the unconscious Hyuga to them. Their glares kept getting colder and there seemed to be more distance between Naruto and the others than before. After all, the students mimicked the behavior of their teachers. Ah well, at least now I know why, Naruto pondered. Though, the history lesson this morning was a bit annoying. The teacher, a chunin named Mizuki, had taught them about the 4 men who had held the position of Hokage. The first, renowned for his strength and his unique skills, the second, the younger brother of the first, who was well known for his ingenuity and intellect, and lastly the fourth, the hero who had sacrificed himself to save the village. Mizuki also spoke of the third Hokage, who had taken back his position after his successor had died, and to Naruto's surprise Jisun was known as the Professor, due to his famed knowledge and wisdom. Naruto had thought about his view on the old man. He was one of the few people who seemed to trust Naruto, so when he revealed the truth, Naruto had decided to trust the decision of the old man. I guess that if Jisun is that smart, he probably figured out the best way for me as well. And what Mizuki-sensei told about Yondaimi's death, I guess his death really created a lot of trouble for Konoha. Naruto had always admired the fourth, as everyone said that he had been the hero who had saved the village. When he was younger, Naruto had always dreamt of becoming a revered hero like him. Ironic, that it was him of all people who had to seal the Kyuubi inside me. Guess I can't blame Jisun for what he, and all the others, did. Just like others shouldn't blame me for what I didn't do. After all, that was all the fault of that Yondaime Tem. Naruto crossed the small square in front of the manor. He was walking alone today, as Hinata had been dragged away again by a bossy and dangerous-looking blonde girl, who was followed by an insecure-looking pink-haired girl. The latter looked like she hated Naruto. Though it was mostly masked a cold attitude, he could clearly sense it. He couldn't really blame her. Just like the kids at the orphanages he lived in, most of his classmates just copied the behavior their elders had towards Naruto. Naruto had seen it happen over and over again. And even though it was only a few weeks ago that he joined their class, this pattern had already showed up. Still, Naruto was somewhat disappointed that the pink-haired girl, who others had called Sakura, acted like that to him when she was bullied by others herself. Naruto had hoped that she could, perhaps, relate to his struggle of being an outcast. But that did not seem to stop her from picking on him, whenever she decided that his behavior was annoying. He honestly did not understand why someone who was bullied would inflict that same pain upon others. It made no sense to his young mind. Perhaps it's just to show to the others that there is someone ranked even lower than her in this group. Though Hinata had tried to apologize to him for having to leave, Naruto had just shrugged and wished her luck with the flower arranging class, and walked home. He knew Neji had gone home a few hours before, as he had a different schedule, being 1 year their senior. So he didn't have anyone else to wait for. Besides, aside from Neji and Hinata, Naruto didn't really know anyone else. At least, not anyone who would actually talk to him. He had enough to worry about, so Naruto had thought that a little solitude was actually nice. It is still hard to understand all this stuff. I guess that is why Jisen and Hiyashi-sama waited to tell me, he realized. They had talked with him a few times now, regarding his fate. Naruto was what they called a Jinchuriki. A Jinchuriki was someone who acted as a container of a demon. The way they had talked, Naruto had felt hope for a moment that there were others like him, but those hope had been short-lived when they told him that there were no other Jinchuriki in Konoha. Opening the door of his cottage at the Hyuga compound, Naruto noticed one of the windows had been left open. Odd, that's not like Haruki-san, Naruto thought, on his guard for possible intruders. Who is there? It's been a while, Naruto, a familiar voice spoke. My, you've gotten quite a big boy now, haven't you? What did they feed you to get you to grow this much? Naruto hadn't heard that voice in a long time, but still recognized it immediately. Toad guy, what are you doing in my house? The man sighed. Toad sage, Naruto. And the name is Jiraiya. And he added with a sarcastic voice. Besides, I am as much a toad as you are a fox. Jiraiya chuckled at the confused look Naruto gave him. The Hokage told me you learned about your burden. So he asked me to teach you a thing or two. You know, so that you can deal with this stuff a little better. Teach me. But I have to attend. The academy will get a notice from the old man himself, and Hiyashi already knows about this as well, so don't worry. We will be back in soon enough. I have already prepared you backpack, Naruto-kun, Haruki added, startling Naruto when he showed up behind the boy. Please be careful with our guest, Jiraiya-sama. Teach him well, and properly, Haruki added with a respectful and formal, though slightly worried tone. Obviously, Haruki had learned about Jiraiya's other profession. Erotic novels were not something a 9-year-old boy should come in contact with. In fact, Haruki would rather have joined the boy in his travels. Don't worry, Jiraiya smiled. I'll take the brat to the forests around Konoha. He will probably need some space for the jutsu I intend to teach him. Picking up the backpack, and dragging along a stunned Naruto, Jiraiya left the estate, making sure no one would notice them leave the village. 2 weeks should be enough. But between the Bunshin and the summoning contract, I will probably need all the time I can get. Sensei and Hiyashi may think the kid has talent, but to expect a 9-year-old brat to grow that much in such a short time. Naruto-kun is not at home today, Hinata-sama, Haruki said when he saw Hinata standing in front of the door of his pupil's house. Where did Naruto-kun go? He did not attend today's classes either, she asked shyly. Is he ill? She continued with a worried expression. No, he is fine. You know how Naruto is. He's incapable of getting sick. So don't worry, Haruki smiled gently. The truth is that Naruto-kun left Konoha for training, so there is nothing to worry about. It is only for a few days, he added after seeing her distraught look. Naruto-kun had some trouble with the lessons from the academy. So he receives some separate lessons to deal with those issues, so please don't worry about him, Hinata-sama. After she bowed and thanked him, Haruki watched her walk away. Poor girl. She is too kind for her own good. If only she hadn't been the heir. Though he could not suppress a smile when he noticed the small bouquet of flowers she left on his pupil's doorstep. Ah, so her admiration has already gone that far. That would explain her behavior during the attempts to talk with Naruto. Hinata-sama. He called out to her. Why yes, Haruki-san. Hinata froze, wondering what it was that she had done wrong. If you want to give Naruto-kun those flowers, why don't you help me putting them in a nice vase? Haruki suggested. Though the girl blushed furiously, she agreed and helped him. If only because it meant she could be in Naruto's cottage for a little while. Thanks to Haruki's lectures on the 12 hand seals, Naruto picked up the basics of the skills easily. But the Bunshin no Jutsu proved to be extremely difficult for the young boy. After 2 days, Naruto only managed to produce 2 copies of himself, which both looked sickly and frail before they weakly exploded in a little cloud of gray smoke. The forms are good, the way he draws onto his chakra is correct, and he certainly doesn't have a shortage of chakra either. What am I missing? If only I had those Byakugan, Jiraiya thought. Not for the first time, mind you. For someone like Jiraiya, having the Byakugan was a lifelong dream. Either that, or the Hokage's crystal ball, as these would enable him to do all the research he ever wanted. All the women in Konoha should count themselves lucky that Jiraiya had neither. The Bunshin no Jutsu is basics. Though, I haven't used the jutsu much ever since I was a genin myself. But if I want him to learn the Kage Bunshin, he should at least be capable of this. Suddenly it occurred to him. Basics. What kind of fool am I? Exclamation mark. Normal rules don't apply to the brat, he never needed to train to grow his chakra reserves. And I am wasting time on basics. Stupid. He never needed to grow his reserves like any other person would. In his case, it would probably be the contrary. He has to learn to control his reserves first. Perhaps I should just skip to the Kage Bunshin. Though I gotta be careful he doesn't go too crazy with the chakra. I can't have him die because he tries too hard. Unaware of Jiraiya's train of thought, Naruto just soldiered on. Training proved difficult for Naruto's confidence. His chakra control always seemed to lag behind others, a fact which people like Neji enjoyed to emphasize. Whenever Hisashi or Haruki tried to teach him something basic, Naruto either performed badly, or far too good. Like how he spectacularly failed when he had to create a soft breeze, but instead blew a section of the garden apart. The old man's curious gaze annoyed him. Even though the geezer remained patient, Naruto couldn't figure out why he had to learn this separate from the other children of his year. He remembered meeting the man a few times, and he even got a frog-shaped plushie once, when he was very young. Or over a year ago, when Naruto had found a frog-shaped wallet, which Naruto had named Gama-chan. Naruto was convinced that he got it from this man. And still Naruto couldn't figure him out. Why would anyone do this for him? Why would anyone willingly spend time with him? There is no darkness in him either, so why would he be genuinely kind to me? Suddenly, Jiraiya stood up. Naruto, perhaps you should try this, as he showed Naruto a different combination of hand seals. Though you should only put about half of your chakra in it. I trust that Haruki taught you how to estimate your own chakra reserves. Naruto nodded, and did as was asked of him. The first few tries went wrong, as his either messed up the sequence of seals or failed to generate enough chakra at the right time, but at the fourth attempt. Jiraiya paled as he suddenly looked at 5 Narutos. Kami. He exclaimed slowly. So many clones at that age. Even several of the Jonin. Contrary to his earlier attempts, these clones were solid. And they all looked confused upon seeing himself so many times. So I was right. Kid, you have so much chakra that many of the basic skills become near impossible to you. Several of the Narutos frowned, like they didn't know whether Jiraiya was giving them a compliment or an insult. Meanwhile, Jiraiya pulled several sheets containing the drafts for his next book out of his pockets, and handed those notes to several of the clones. Read them, he said. And dismiss one of the Bunshin after you've read them. All the Narutos shrugged, not seeing the point of it at all, but decided to humor the man and do what he said. Like anything could happen. Naruto blinked, and looked at his clones. Wait, how do I? You figured it out. Jiraiya chuckled. How could I remember what the Bunshin read? Naruto was shocked when he realized that he somehow knew what his clone had read. Popping another Bunshin, Naruto knew for certain that this was no mere freak accident. How? I didn't know Bunshin could do this, he exclaimed. I know what he just read. What I read, I mean. It is impossible for the Bunshin no Jutsu, but it is easy for the people who master the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Kage Bunshin. Shadow clones. Yes, those are autonomous, unlike the normal Bunshin who are merely a illusionary distraction. Unlike the elemental Bunshin, like a Mizu Bunshin, the Kage Bunshin is created purely from chakra. You effectively create a complete replica of yourself, which is capable of thinking and acting on its own, with the added benefit of transferring whatever it experienced back to the caster when it gets dispelled, Jiraiya explained patiently. Though the sheer amount of chakra it takes make the jutsu impossible for most shinobi, aside from those who have at least high chunin or jonin level chakra reserves. But considering who you are. Jiraiya paused for a moment. Well, you know who you are, and who you hold inside you. Fact is, your reserves are probably near jonin level already, though your control over it is extremely bad. But you possess a crazy amount of raw chakra, kid. All you need is the skill to use it properly. I mean, 5 were taxing for you right now, but once you learn to use your chakra a bit more effectively, a dozen clones will be a piece of cake. Naruto couldn't help but grimace once he saw the exaggerated pose which Jiraiya struck after finishing his speech. And moments like that make me wonder whether he is the greatest teacher alive, or the greatest idiot. 16 clones is his limit now, he finished counting, a few hours later. It went way faster than I estimated. Sure, the clones he created are weaker than the ones he created initially, and they'll be mostly useless in battle, but still, 16 Kage Bunshin is quite the feat for a kid his age. At this rate, I can let him sign the toad summoning contract, give him the scrolls, and make his clones practice Fuinjutsu. This might work out after all. Jiraiya frowned. He had read the reports, but during his 14-month absence from Konoha, Naruto had grown far faster than he had anticipated. It sure looked like the guardian the Hyuga had appointed to him had performed miracles on him. Naruto's chakra control and capacity had grown considerably, but that was not it. The brat has always been troubled. Who can blame him? After the treatment he got, Jiraiya mused. He still recalled his rage when he had heard about the way the last orphanage had mistreated Naruto, though the owner had been lucky enough that Hiruzen had punished her. Else, Jiraiya would have made sure she would have ended up like a petrified toad. Or that she had wished to be petrified instead. But despite the improved situation, Naruto still kept to himself. Barely trusting adults, and avoiding other children. Naruto had associated social interaction with danger, especially with those of his own age, and it frightened Jiraiya when he thought about the consequences it might have for the future. Especially now that idiotic sensei of mine decided to tell him the truth. It was way too early, Jiraiya sighed. Though, I guess that telling the truth would be for the best, now that Naruto had partly guessed why he is hated that much. Having him walk around with the wrong ideas would have been an even worse situation. Still, the question remains why the kid acts like this. It's like his behavior is getting darker over time. While he was near, Jiraiya decided that he could just as well go fishing for the truth behind this. So, Naruto, how is the academy? A sweaty Naruto looked up, with a hint of annoyance that he was disturbed while gathering chakra for a next attempt to execute the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. I guess I will learn a lot, if Haruki-san is right. Jiraiya tilted his head a bit. Still the boy mistrusted what others told him. And your classmates? What about them? Well, anyone friendly. Some nice girls, perhaps. He grinned. Aside from Hinata-sama, I don't really know anyone else, Naruto shrugged, uncaring. You're kidding, right? Well, there's a blonde girl who looks like trouble. I think she was named Ino. She always has that pink-haired girl tailing her. Naruto looked blankly at the senin, wondering why the older man would ask for such things. Don't you want to know them? Who knows, you might get friendly with some, Jiraiya tried. Friendly with me? Naruto frowned. Perhaps, but it seems unlikely. They have no reason to get close to me, and I don't mind keeping my distance. Even though they don't know what I am, everyone still avoids me whenever possible anyway. That's one of the few things they quickly picked up from our teachers. Don't refer to yourself as a what? Jiraiya corrected him gently. You are Uzumaki Naruto, and you will become a shinobi of Konoha. A great shinobi, by the looks of it. And believe me or not, but I've got a great eye for talent, kiddo. No matter what others have done to you, you are not to be blamed for the creature that was sealed inside you. Yeah, right, Naruto scoffed. Even if they shouldn't, they still will. People will call you a Jinchuriki, as you are someone who acts as the jailer of the demon that was sealed inside you, Jiraiya continued as if he hadn't heard Naruto. But you are also a normal human being. We all need friends if we want to survive in this world. No one can last while all alone. Also, after you graduate, you will form a genin team with 2 of your classmates. So spend some time to get to know them a little, and show them how wrong they are about you. Naruto opened his mouth, but shut it again as if he forgot what he wanted to say. After a few minutes of silence he spoke again. Perhaps I could try, if they did not resent me like all the others. Otherwise, I just follow my own path, and become strong enough that I would never need someone else. No human can live alone, Naruto, Jiraiya said with a hint of sadness. What would you fight for, if you had no one you cared about? What would be your reason to live? Naruto looked at the old man's face, and for a moment Jiraiya saw only loneliness and pain in the boy's eyes. Not wanting to talk on, Naruto changed the subject. Why did I need to learn the Bunshin no Jutsu, before the Kage Bunshin? Jiraiya sighed, knowing that the stubborn boy would refuse to talk about it any longer. He swore that this kid was even more stubborn than his former teammate. Then again, she was part Uzumaki too. And considering how his mother had acted, Jiraiya suspected that this stubbornness was an inborn trait of every Uzumaki. Normally, people need to be able to do the regular Bunshin, before they can attempt to master the Shadow Clone variant. But you already possess too much chakra for the regular, or simply too little control over it. So while you cannot do the regular one, which you'd need for your final exam, you have little trouble with the advanced form. I suppose you still need to train your chakra control, until you are capable of limiting the amount of chakra you put into the simple jutsus. I still put too much chakra into it. Naruto frowned. I thought I limited myself enough, and barely used any at all. It was still way too much, Jiraiya laughed jovially. That's why the normal Bunshin failed. But like I said, the Kage Bunshin requires more chakra, so your overcapacity does not cause it to fail like the simple Bunshin did. Though, I suggest you keep this particular skill a secret. Why? The regular Bunshin is a skill they teach you kids at the academy, but the Kage Bunshin is usually reserved for the Jonin level shinobi only, Jiraiya smirked. People would become suspicious of you if they'd know you possess this level of skill. And I'd prefer it that they all stay unaware of the fact that I've been training you. So that's why you wanted me to keep it a secret. Why? Yes, the less others know about me training you, the better, Jiraiya sighed. Look, kid, I can't fully explain it now, but if too many people knew that you and I knew each other, well, it could be bad. So I would like to keep the fact that I train you hidden for now. That's why I took all those precautions when we left town. But enough about that, now that you've managed to execute the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, we will continue with. 3 weeks later, a very ragged-looking Naruto finally showed up in class again. Though now he wore a subtle orange belt over the otherwise regular long-sleeved white robes, and black pants, which were custom to the lower ranks within the Hyuga clan. Hinata was happy he returned, and quickly decided to go talk to him when they had break. At least, once she could get away from Ino, who seemed to have taken the duty to take care of the hesitant Hyuga heiress. After all, the others knew each other from the previous year, which Hinata and Naruto had skipped due to the training they received from the Hyuga clan. The Dujutsu clans always kept their children from the academy the first year, as they learned the basic skills in a different way. They could learn from seeing, after all, something the academy teachers could not comprehend. Subjects like the usage and detection of chakra were completely different to them. Though this obviously did not apply for Naruto, but for some reason he had gotten his lessons on the estate as well. Not that he minded. Haruki was a far better teacher than those at the academy. Ah man. Why do those ruddy thing transfer memories, but can't get some sleep for ya? Naruto yawned, as he walked outside with a sluggish pace. Hello na Naruto-kun, Hinata stuttered. Good morning Hinata-sama, Naruto bowed. If he was startled that Hinata had been waiting for him he didn't show it. Then again, this could also be because he was simply too exhausted to react. Please don't. Don't use that honorific. We are all just classmates, she blushed. Naruto frowned a little, mistakenly wondering why him being polite angered her. I can't. As you wish, Hinata-san. Are you all right? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Just had to skip some classes because I needed some extra training, he grinned. It seems like my chakra control was a bit of a problem. Picking up a leaf, he held it up and said, watch, and put the leaf on his head. Activating her Byakugan shortly, showed Hinata that he focused some of his chakra into the leaf. As always, when she looked at him using his chakra, she thought he was unique. He was the only person she knew who had that much chakra, or who had two colors of chakra. Sadly, Naruto's little performance turned sour when the leaf ignited. Moving quickly, Naruto threw the burning leaf away and stomped on it to extinguish its tiny flames. The only fortunate thing was that no one else saw his failure, but Naruto noticed someone walking towards them. Together again. A blonde girl mocked. One might get curious what kind of relationship you two have, she added with a curious voice. Relationship. Hinata's poor mind suddenly spun out of control. And crashed. Wait. Hinata-chan. Hinata-chan. The girl exclaimed after Hinata lost consciousness once more. Naruto looked down on the girl who now glowed with a bright red light, and shrugged. She'll be fine in a few minutes, he stated, earning him a curious look from the blonde. Don't look at me, I didn't do anything. She just does this from time to time. I think she is ill or sometime, but she always denies that. Heat temperature is too high though. You live at the Hyuga compound, don't you? Yeah, they took me in a few years ago. So, you are related to the Hyuga? Not that I know of, he shrugged. They offered me a place to live at. And it certainly beats any orphanage. But you know Hinata-chan. I guess. Not that we ever talked that much, Naruto frowned. Why? Just curious, Ino chirped. Yamanaka Ino, she extended her hand. Well, come on, it's not like I would bite you, she frowned when Naruto stared at her hand. Uzumaki Naruto. He didn't understand why she was acting like this, but decided to answer the gesture. Shall we carry Hinata-sama back in? But I haven't asked you about. Despite her inborn curiosity, Ino could not figure out the new boy. Most of the others seemed to ignore him, following the example set by their teachers and parents. Her father did not want to give her any information about the boy either, though he did seem very weary because of the subject. Yet, Ino refused to give up. The more of an enigma he became, the greater her determination to unravel his mystery. Yamanaka Ino knew one thing for sure: Uzumaki Naruto was not a regular boy. There was something fundamentally different about him. He was something very special, and yet she could not define why or how. As she stalked him, she noticed that he preferred spending his time alone, though he seemed to accept the presence of Hinata. But with the exception of her, he remained neutral and distant towards all the other kids in their class. It had already been more than half a year since he and Hinata had joined class, he was still an outcast. Even the ever-silent Shino belonged more to their group than Naruto did. Hey Shikamaru, I found out that he came from an orphanage, but why do you think he is such a loner? She asked her classmate one day. It doesn't make any sense. If he came from an orphanage he want to make some friends, right? Who cares? Shikamaru sighed. He wondered why she kept prying, when it was obvious Naruto rather not talked about it. If Naruto prefers to be alone, let him be alone. Don't be such a meddler. But before he finished speaking, he already knew as sure as his name was Nara Shikamaru that she wouldn't just leave it at that. He knew her long enough to recognize that look. That troublesome curiosity of hers. He sighed. Listen, for some reason most of the adults seem to avoid him. Have you seen Mizuki-sensei's eyes when he looks at Naruto? I don't know why they do it though. Naruto seems friendly enough, even though he seems to be extremely careful with keeping his distance from others. Obviously, there is some secret that is way too troublesome for us to get involved in, or else their behavior wouldn't make any sense. I mean, they wouldn't just hate him for no good reason, right? Though he didn't tell Ino what his father told him earlier, when Shikamaru had asked nearly the same question. Naruto may be different from other kids, but don't let the behavior of others affect you. Though a lot of people do not like him living in Konoha, the Hokage trusts him. So try to shape your own independent opinion about him. You know what I taught you. Only trust your own observations, do not believe what others might say, or you'll end up making the same mistakes. Shikamaru frowned at the contradiction, while thinking back. How was he supposed to both ignore others' opinions, and to accept them at the same time? Adults were always so troublesome. Similarly curious, but less frank about it, Hinata also tried to learn more about Uzumaki Naruto. But the more she hesitated, the harder it became for her to start talking to him. And he never started talking himself. She could see that he was hiding his real ability, as she also saw his efforts at the Hyuga complex, but she couldn't fathom it. He was neither weak nor stupid, so why was he deliberately holding back? Why did the others avoid him? And why did many of the teachers act so differently towards him? Hinata felt like she was a disappointment herself, but people treated her well at the academy. Not that she was popular. In the contrary. Her position as heiress of the famous Hyuga clan seemed to intimidate most others. Well, apart from those who were born in similar high positions within their clans, like Ino, Shikamaru, or Choji. No, Naruto never seemed to expect anything of anyone. Most would think he was simply not interested in others, but Hinata suspected that was not the case. He was hiding for some reason. And at days, he even seemed faint when she looked at him while she activated her Byakugan. As if he only had access to a small portion of his regular chakra. Not that she activate her Byakugan openly in the middle of the classroom, she wouldn't dare. After all, many seemed to think that the Byakugan looked ugly and scary. I'm just pathetic. Always watching, but always from a distance and never at his side. Unknown to most, Uzumaki Naruto usually did not even attend the majority of the classes. After he managed to master the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he just sent clones to the lectures, though he did go to the Taijutsu and Bukijutsu trainings himself, not wanting to risk his clones getting popped and revealing his secret. No, right now he thought it was more useful for him to spend time with the scrolls the Toad Sage had given him. At the orders of the Hokage, and with permission from Hiashi, Jiraiya had given Naruto the scrolls of the Uzumaki clan he had in his possession. Since Naruto was the last known survivor of his clan, he had the right to possess the scrolls. Though Jiraiya had sealed most of the scrolls, just like how he had explained when he gave Naruto the scrolls. You will first require learning the prerequisites from these scrolls, before you can unlock the seals I have placed on the others, the Toad Hermit had said to him. You will get access to those skills the moment you are ready for them. That is why I sorted them out like that. First you need to learn the basic theory behind Fuinjutsu. Once you know that, you can start practicing the low-ranked seals. That's the way your clan taught their children, if my sources are correct. The old man had patted Naruto's head when he saw the annoyed look of the boy. Listen, brat, he smiled, there aren't many people around with such knowledge of Fuinjutsu. Be patient and learn as much as you can, as fast as you can. And keep your knowledge hidden from others for now. Jiraiya had only made one exception to the secrecy he had made Naruto promise. And Haruki was happy to help Naruto where he could. Though, his ability to help had decreased over the years. Naruto had long been unaware of this, but it was now clearly visible that his caretaker suffered from illness. They never spoke much about it, though Haruki did seem to regret that it had forced him to quit as a shinobi. Naruto worried about his caretaker, and often did as much for him as he could. The man's seemingly indifferent attitude towards his own fate also puzzled Naruto. But the situation did not affect Naruto's training. As the scrolls predominantly contained theory about Fuinjutsu, the sealing techniques of the Uzumaki clan, Haruki could help him a lot with understanding the theory, despite his inability to create the required amounts of chakra to actually form the seals himself. Seals required an eye for detail Naruto never really had. Not before, at least. However, his impatience was outmatched by his desire to learn his clan's techniques. To Naruto, it felt like the only link he had to a family he had never known. It made him feel as if he was part of something bigger. And with time, and a lot of Haruki's help, as well as the ever-increasing skill with his Kage Bunshin, Naruto's skill grew faster than anyone suspected. Haruki quickly realized that Naruto's unusual creativity allowed him to alter seals in ways normal people would not have thought of. Not that Haruki would tell his protege that he was a genius. No, that would be far too dangerous. Especially because Haruki's Byakugan had more than once avoided costly mistakes, so overconfidence was the last thing Naruto needed. And with the use of his clones, Naruto also quickly mastered the Kawarimi no Jutsu. Quite an invaluable technique when testing seals that carried the risk of explosions, shock waves, or electrocutions upon activation. More than one clone ended up in a small crater. Most of the seals he mastered, however, were not used for combat, but rather for utility, like a simple storage seal which allowed him to carry several objects with him at all times. But the seal which was Naruto's favorite made people unable to notice him. Even Jiraiya, who usually visited once every few months, was surprised by the Sudoru's no Fuin, stealth seal, as Naruto had named it. Jiraiya even joked that it was more useful than his peeping jutsu, earning him a glare from Haruki, though he remarked that he never knew that the Uzumaki scrolls contained anything like that. A fact Naruto did not emphasize on. In truth, the scrolls had not contained that particular seal at all. Naruto had kept an item from the events that had changed his life so much, a part of the mask that he had found in that run-down temple when he was kidnapped. Though the seal written on the mask was very, very tiny, and a small part of it had broken off, Naruto had still been able to recreate the seal. Though, the chakra consumption for maintaining the seal was no joke. Not even for Naruto, who had come to realize that his chakra capacity truly was exceptional, as time had passed at the academy. In fact, Naruto suspected that this particular seal would be completely useless to most others. But to him, it was invaluable. Even though Naruto kept growing, he carefully kept his increasing skill a secret from his classmates. Though he did well enough during classes, Naruto made sure not to stand out. He attracted enough attention to him as he was, even though they did not know about his guest. Though Ino kept prodding, at times even nagging, him for more information. And more than once he spotted the shy Hyuga heiress watching him. At some times, Naruto simply activated the stealth seal just to avoid Ino during breaks, whenever he spotted a blonde ponytail. Some people are just too curious, while I have no desire to tell anyone anything that might arouse suspicion, Naruto sighed. He had promised Jiraiya to keep his skills a secret for now, and Naruto intended to never break his promises. Not that his secrecy seemed to work perfectly. Some people seemed to look at him differently than most. Like Shikamaru, a boy who Naruto would almost call friendly. If Naruto had not grown the suspicion that the Nara was simply too lazy to hate him, that is. But Shikamaru often made sure that either he or Choji, a rather big-boned Akamichi, paired up with him when they had to spar during classes, something which Naruto never really understood, but appreciated nonetheless. Though, he made sure never to call the usually calm and gentle Choji fat, having seen the effect when the unruly Inuzuka had said that once. Still, their strange behavior was rather useful for Naruto, as probably they were only ones who willingly worked with Naruto aside from Hinata. And the latter kept fainting at the worst moments. Like during the taijutsu practice where Naruto accidentally hit her against the chest. Or when he tried to explain her how he threw his kunai, and accidentally touched her hand. If Naruto learned one thing at the academy, it was that girls were strange. Not to mention dangerous. A short-tempered Sakura, for example, was something Naruto quickly learned to avoid. Not to mention the tenacity that someone like Ino displayed on a daily basis. Yet, of all the people in class, there was one in whom Naruto could particularly empathize. Ironically, it was a boy who was his counterpart in almost anything. Uchiha Sasuke enjoyed endless popularity with almost everyone, not to mention the heart of nearly every girl. The teachers all favored him as much as they detested Naruto. At times, Naruto enjoyed pissing Sasuke off, just for the fun of it. And it was pretty easy to do as well, as the latter always tried to be best of the class, and handled any defeat badly. Very badly. But Naruto got a different view on the boy after he had learned that Boy's clan was massacred a few years before, all during one night at the Uchiha estate. And though Sasuke acted spoiled, and ignored all the things Naruto desired, the love, trust, or admiration from others, Naruto couldn't bring himself to being jealous. Though Naruto never really had any family to begin with, while Sasuke was someone who lost everyone he had cared about. Naruto could easily see the pain, sadness, and loneliness the Uchiha boy tried to hide. It was certainly something Naruto could understand, and relate to. The look in Sasuke's eyes was so similar to when Naruto saw his own eyes in the mirror. Still, at times, for instance due to losing a match, Naruto also saw the boy's lingering anger and hate smoldering underneath it all. As if some kind of darkness lay waiting for a chance to consume him. In an introspective mood, Naruto realized he too had a lot of anger and hatred inside him. With all his heart, He felt like he never could repay what the Hyuga had done for him. He felt gratitude to Hinata, to the point where he vowed to keep her safe from everything. But he was also thankful towards Hitomi, Haruki, and several other Hyuga. Just like he felt gratitude towards Jiraiya and the Hokage. But Naruto could not forget how everyone else had treated him either. The villagers, many of his classmates, and those teachers, such as that bastard Mizuki. Many of them treated him like he was some rabid dog whom they'd rather put down than teach. Though, Naruto thought that one teacher, Yumino Iruka, was different from Mizuki. Perhaps Iruka was the only non-Hyuga adult aside from the Hokage and Jiraiya who treated him like an actual human being. Even to the point where he once treated Naruto on ramen, when he saw the boy wandering through the streets of Konoha. Naruto did not understand why the man did it, but he never forgot about it. Ever since, the two visited the ramen stand every now and then, and Naruto even got to the point where he actually started to trust the man. A little. Uzumaki Naruto, one of the teachers called. Years had passed, and now Naruto was asked to enter the classroom for the final exam of the academy. The theoretical parts were already done. The taijutsu and bukijutsu exams had been the day before, and Naruto had passed those with relative ease. All that was left was the ninjutsu exam which he had to attend right now. The one he found the most annoying. After closing the door behind him, Naruto saw that Mizuki took the lead. Predictably, as he had started out like this on every exam, seemingly eager to make Naruto fail. Well, Naruto-san, could you please start by showing us your skill in the Henge no Jutsu? Naruto smiled, as had long mastered the techniques that were mandatory in the academy. Well, the Bunshin was still impossible to him, though Naruto had to admit that he had not really put any effort in it either. After learning the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he simply thought it was not necessary. And again that Mizuki bastard wants me to fail, Naruto thought bitterly, after the said person had picked every technique he thought Naruto was bad at. Naturally he kept the Bunshin no Jutsu for last, knowing that Naruto never succeeded with that one. Thanks, but I'd rather not do that jutsu, Mizuki-sensei. What? Do you want to fail the exam? Mizuki asks, with a bad effort to keep a smirk from his face. I might not have the Byakugan, but the Haruki taught me well enough in the art of reading people's expression and posture. Naruto sighed. You know all too well that I cannot perform the Bunshin no Jutsu, sensei. But if you don't mind, I could show an alternative. An alternative? Mizuki asks, confused. What alternative is there to? A few hand seals later, and Mizuki's mouth fell open upon seeing the entire classroom filling up with Narutos. Iruka, though equally shocked, at least responded with some cheer. Was that Kage Bunshin? Naruto, how on earth did you learn this? This is not something that a genin or even a chunin is supposed to know. Naruto shrugged and smiled, not willing to reveal that Jiraiya had taught him. Can't tell. Sorry, I made a promise to keep it a secret, Iruka-sensei. But does this mean I passed the final exam? Not answering his question, Iruka just proudly stood up and gave him his forehead protector. You have earned this, Naruto. Congratulations on making it to genin. He smiled at Naruto's exaggerated theatrical bowing, realizing that this was probably the first time he ever saw Naruto show real happiness. This boy had suffered more from the fox than anyone did, just like the Hokage had remarked at Iruka's appointment the previous year. Sure, seeing Naruto made Iruka remember the loss of his own parents, but this boy was not the demon. After the efforts of getting to know the boy a little better, Iruka had only gotten angry at how easily all other had dismissed him as the demon. In the end, rather than reminding him of the Kyuubi, Naruto had reminded Iruka more of his younger self. I guess that means I owe you some ramen in order to celebrate this, don't I? Iruka joked, ruffling through Naruto's spiky blonde hair. He only smiled more as he saw Naruto beam even more. As Naruto walked out, finally free from the academy, he noticed Hitomi waiting outside. Obviously, Hinata was somewhere near, but she always seemed to have problems facing him. Well, how did your exam go, Naruto? Naruto held up the metal plate with the sign of Konoha inscribed in it, and proudly smiled. Perfectly, Hitomi-sama. Even though I messed up the Bunshin no Jutsu, the boy said at a mischievous tone. It must have been a pleasant surprise to them, The Hyuga smiled, knowing full well that Naruto had shown his alternative. Naruto's skill with the Kage Bunshin was probably the worst kept secret in the Hyuga clan, as none of them were surprised when they saw dozens of Narutos littered around in the training grounds, library, or his own cottage. Naruto hasn't been this cheerful in a long time. Blushing furiously, but smiling as well, Hinata also showed her prize to Naruto. What followed could be viewed as a party. At least, by Hyuga standards. No wild music, laughter, or free banter, but instead Naruto was invited to join a cozy dinner with main family. Fortunately, this dinner was without any incidents. Which was a good thing, considering how restless the Hyuga clan was at the moment. The residents on the compound had gone through several incidents, which often involved fire. There were some who lost their lives, and others had vanished in the thin air. It was unnerving the Hyuga that someone could cause all this without them seeing it. The supposedly all-seeing Byakugan did not help them, which led to people pointing fingers at each other, which only increased the rift between the main and branch families, but it was more popular to blame Naruto. Even when there was little to no proof that he had been involved. Still, it was whispered that Naruto had to be responsible, and it were rumors originating from both sides of the clan. But a simple test had pointed out that Naruto had an affinity for futon jutsu, rather than Kaden. This removed much of the suspicions, but not all. After all, people knew that the Kyuubi was rumored to be able to breathe fire. So, whatever Naruto did, he still ended up being a suspect every time a corpse was found, or a person went missing. Even after living among them for several years, the Hyuga clan still couldn't decide whether or not Uzumaki Naruto could be trusted. It was tiresome, but Naruto tried not to be bothered by it. At least the Hyuga were too civil to openly act against him. Not like some shopkeepers in Konoha who would just throw him out for no good reason, or the more violent responses some people had at his presence. Naruto knew who and what he was, and the injustice of his situation frustrated him. But he had no choice but to accept it, and move on. At least, this was what Haruki told the boy. Lingering in the past and resenting people for what once happened was a bad thing. Especially for one as young as Naruto. And Haruki always told him to never treat anyone in a way he don't wish to be treated himself. Naruto listened, though mostly because Elder Hyuga had emphasized that other behavior would not fitting for a Hokage. But tonight was a night Naruto did not have to worry about those things. Tonight was celebration. As formal as the Hyuga might be, having two of their residents go through a promotion was reason enough to throw a little feast. Even when it concerned the two children who were arguably also the two least trusted by the clan. And where Naruto was not trusted for whom he was, but at least appreciated for his ability, Hinata was at the short end for both of it. Many within the clan doubted her skill just as much as her personality. It was not a secret that Hinata was considered to be too gentle to ever become a proper shinobi. Not that Hitomi ever allowed anyone to openly speak such words about her daughter. Still, it was impossible to stop the gossip, especially when it was a public secret that her own husband was the first to be disappointed in their daughter's skill. To make matters worse for the young heiress, Hanabi, Hinata's younger sister, was considered a great talent within the clan. The younger sister showed a lot more potential and determination, making Hinata's position as heir shaky at best. Especially now that Hiashi had shifted his focus on training Hanabi rather than Hinata. It left many people guessing when Hinata would lose her position, rather than if. But in spite all these sad things, this dinner was a relatively happy occasion. There was enough food to even satisfy Naruto. Though he really did not understand why ramen was not appropriate during celebratory banquets, no matter how Haruki tried to convince him about it. Apparently, this discussion greatly amused both Hinata and Hitomi, causing him to scratch the back of his head in embarrassment. How uncivilized would this boy have become if we hadn't given him lessons in etiquette? Was what Haruki thought at the display, and sighed, knowing all too well that Naruto would be a recidivist in this area. In the formal environment of the Hyuga clan, Naruto would always stay foreign. Though the few who knew him well enough, realized that his apparent cheerfulness was just a mask. Haruki recently discussed this with Hiashi, being aware of Naruto's burden. At the end of the dinner, Haruki saw Naruto's pensive look, Perhaps it would have been better if he had lived in a less formal and rigid environment. That look he has, could Hiyashi-sama be right about him being slowly infected by the monster? At times, Naruto even feels the same as the fox did all those years ago. If had been anyone else. It's not just his physical strength, but his mental strength which is extraordinary, Haruki mused. Perhaps this change is good a chance for him. A team could mean he finally creates some real bonds with children of his own age. It would give him a good reason to resist the corrupting influence of the Biju. Chapter 4. Team 7. Genin Arc. Team 7. Only the last 9 of those who passed the tests and made it as Genin were now waiting in the classroom. Much to Naruto's rejoice, this meant that it was the last time he was forced to spend time in a place he had come to hate. Well, come to hate it back, is more like it, he considered with some bitterness. And most of the biggest idiots of his class had already entered the previously summoned teams. Well, with the exception of the Uchiha of course, I hope they don't screw me over and put me in a team with the Tem. After a while, a tall, black-haired and bearded man first entered. With a casual tone and posture he spoke. Would Akamichi Choji, Nara Shikamaru, and Yamanaka Ino come with me to training area 6? None of the three seemed surprised. Naruto knew that their parents had been teammates as well, and as they were the heads of their respective clans, it would be highly likely that their children would be put in one team as well. After all, it was tradition. Stupid traditions, Naruto sighed. If Naruto had to pick anyone from his class, he would have liked it if he had been in a team with Shikamaru or Choji. Or both, which would be even better. Well, at least he wouldn't be in a team with Ino now. Not that he disliked his fellow blonde, but she was far too curious and meddlesome for her own good. And Naruto liked his privacy a bit too much to get along well with her. He did not want his secrets exposed just yet. He knew it would be impossible to hide the truth from his classmates forever, but as long as they would just see him as an outcast, and not as an incarnation of a demon, they would at least treat him somewhat normally. At least Hinata-sama is still here. Perhaps I would end up in a team with her, that wouldn't be too bad either. But immediately after Team 10 left, a fairly tall, black-haired woman entered. She had remarkable red eyes, like they just looked right through someone. She had a gentle voice, though the message it carried was hard, as much for Naruto as it was for Hinata. Would Hyuga Hinata, Aburame Shino, and Inuzuka Kiba follow me? Downcast, the girl followed her, casting one last glance on the Uzumaki boy whom she had hoped to be teamed up with. Naruto groaned when he considered who were left. He would be in a team with Sakura and Sasuke. Great. Just the two who hate me most, Sasuke's #1 fangirl and the Tem himself. Naruto barely heard how Iruka apologized, stating that their sensei would probably be late. Perfect, Naruto thought sarcastically. A team that doesn't want me and a sensei that seems to care too little about us to get here on time. Just fucking great. Can this day get any worse? He sighed, looked outside, and began dozing off. The downside of using the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to learn things faster was the mental strain. These days, it seemed as if Naruto slept half of the day, even though he worked harder than any other genin of his class. Well, not that anyone who knew Shikamaru would call Naruto lazy. Shikamaru was the king of laziness. After a while Iruka had to leave, and Sakura started to talk to Sasuke. Though, it was one-way traffic, as the latter hardly seemed to listen. Sasuke was equally disappointed in the team. He did not think that he would need team members, being as talented as he was, but if they insisted he took some of these weaklings along they could at the very least have picked a few more useful ones. Looking to the other side of the room, he saw Naruto had fallen asleep. Great, the annoying fangirl and the lazy idiot. About an hour later, a man finally entered the room. His silver-colored hair spiked in all directions, giving him the appearance of someone who just got out of bed. His single visible eye did not show any hint of interest in them. He coughed hard enough to wake Naruto, seemingly annoyed that the genin showed so little interest. Training ground 3, 30 minutes, he said, with a bored tone, before he vanished in a small puff of smoke and leaves. Wait, what? Sakura exclaimed. Naruto shrugged. It's just a little north, next to the river. I guess he wants to see how fast we are. Yeah, but he could at least have Wait, where did he go? Sakura turned to Sasuke after she noticed Naruto had already left. Not that Sasuke was still in his chair, making Sakura realize that she too had to move. And fast. Like he had expected, the Uchiha Prodigy arrived first. Kakashi had heard a little about him, and knew he was the top of his class. Well, it made sense to drop the last Uchiha on me, Kakashi mused. I am the last one capable of teaching him. Aside from his brother, of course. Hey, not that they want Itachi to teach this boy even a single thing. The second one to arrive was a surprise. Kakashi hadn't heard that much about the Haruno girl, but when he observed them for a few minutes while they waited for him just now, she had mostly seemed the fangirl type of girl to him. Usually not the most useful type of kunoichi, but she seemed to have above average chakra control, Kakashi remembered from the reports Hiruzen had given him. Well, not that he had really read them, but while scanning through, Kakashi had noticed that her scores on the theoretical exams were even higher than those of Sasuke. Sadly, she was average at best when it came to applying those skills. Still, she had been good enough to compete with the Yamanaka heir for the position of Kunoichi of the Year. This did not exactly give Kakashi high hopes for the current generation. Kakashi actually began to worry as the 30-minute mark was nearly reached. The reports on the Uzumaki boy were a bit inconsistent, Kakashi realized now that he thought about it. On average, his grades weren't anything special, but every once in a while he excelled, and his ratings were all over the place. Never showing much talent at ninjutsu, and then suddenly throwing out Kage Bunshin at the exams like it was nothing. Failing to perform something simple as kunai practice one day, and then defeating someone like Sasuke in single combat on taijutsu the day after. Obviously, he has been hiding his true skill. Hokage-sama warned me he might be a bit troublesome to deal with, but didn't say much about his skill or potential. And the Jinchuriki business only complicates things further. Sure, my Sharingan gives me an edge if the boy would lose control, but as long as I don't even know how strong he is, it still is bothersome. Though his status as Jinchuriki also explains why no one ever bothered to properly examine how skilled the boy actually is. Still, Iruka spoke highly of him, perhaps that made me expect a little too much. Luckily, Naruto arrived just in time. Casually strolling, with an empty box which had contained the takeaway food he had bought at Ichiraku's. The fact that he took the time to buy and eat food made Kakashi's brows raise a bit. At least, the one that was visible behind his mask. He couldn't have used Shunshin on this distance, could he? Well, now we're all here, welcome to Team 7. Introductions first, I guess. I'll introduce first, and then each of you will state your name, goals, likes, and dislikes, okay? My name is Hitaki Kakashi, I'm a Jonin, I don't have any desires to talk about my likes or dislikes. As for my dreams, and hobbies. The three genin looked at each other, and shrugged at the nondescript statement. Naruto started out, even though he did not like to. But he just wanted to get it over with. Okay, I guess, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen. While he held up the empty box, and I dislike short-sighted and stupid people, he resisted the urge to point at the other two genin, albeit just barely. I guess my dream would be becoming Hokage. The latter caused a cynical chuckle from Sasuke, irking Naruto. But before the blonde could react, Sakura continued, not even having listened to the Uzumaki in the first place. My name is Haruno Sakura. The thing I like is, well, the person I like is, and my dream is. Oh yeah, she squeaked. Obvious to all but the fangirl herself, was the sigh of their new sensei. Naruto found the somewhat embarrassed look on Sasuke's face amusing though. The perfect payback. Because Naruto knew very well that the Uchiha hated the fangirls of their class just as much as he did. Or perhaps even more, considering that Sasuke was their target. While Sasuke looked away, attempting to hide his embarrassment, Naruto just rolled his eyes. He had seen enough of these kinds of situations the previous 3 years. Worse, he had seen Sakura and Ino together. In hindsight, it didn't surprise Naruto that much that Hinata never really managed to fit into the little group of aspiring kunoichi. Hinata may be a little odd, but I would rather have had her in my team than any of the other girls. Why can't they just act normally around Sasuke? It's not like he ever gave them any hope. Having had enough, Sasuke spoke up before the girl's rant could continue. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. There are lots of things I dislike, and there is not really anything I do like. And my dream. I guess you can call it a dream. The resurrection of my clan and the death of the one who caused it to fall. It was the first time Naruto saw, and felt, this kind of anger in Sasuke. It almost worried him, wondering if Sasuke meant the Kyuubi, but the Uchiha massacre had happened several years after that incident. Alright, so much for the introductions, now we will do a little test, Kakashi said as he put down a clock. You three have till noon to get these 2 bells from me. Those who don't have a bell at noon fail the test, okay. What happens with the person who doesn't get a bell, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asks, suddenly back to earth due to the stated assignment. Well, if you fail you go back to the academy. So attack me with the intent to kill if you want to get the bells. Oh yeah, another thing. If I see you I might attack you, so make sure to be careful, Kakashi added with a deceivingly innocent voice. And he vanished again. I wonder what was worse, that guy's lazy attitude or the plain disinterest toward us. Naruto frowned. Damn, I had hoped to hide it a bit longer, at least until the pervert returned. But I did not have to keep my promise if it was for Konoha. Naruto thought a bit, and smirked. And showing that silver-haired bastard what I can is my duty to Konoha right now, isn't it? Hiding on tree across the clearing, Hitaki Kakashi watched how Sasuke and Sakura quickly hid themselves. It was the best option, considering they faced a superior opponent. He was mildly disappointed that Sasuke ignored the kunoichi, but at least she had some sense of teamwork. Well, she did ignore her other teammate, but, wait, what is he doing? Kakashi wondered when he saw Naruto sitting down on the ground. The boy calmly put 4 sheets of paper on the ground, and placed an empty scroll in front of him. What the? Barrier seals. Guess that explains all those scrolls at his belt. And what is he drawing? Did someone teach him fuinjutsu? No, that is not something that suits the Hyuga. Then again, it isn't taught at the academy either. Ah well, I'd better take down that barrier first, and worry about where he learned it later, Kakashi considered. To test the boy's constructs, he threw a couple of shuriken at the barrier. Though, he did not forget to keep an eye out for the other 2 genin. While unlikely, Naruto could also serve as a distraction, so that the others could strike. Surprisingly, the barriers exploded the moment the shuriken hit. And though the young Uzumaki jumped out of the smoke unharmed, he had an annoyed look on his face. Kakashi created a cage bunshin to deal with the boy. While the boy's fuinjutsu had surprised him at first, the weakness of the barriers made Kakashi reconsider. Sitting out there with such deplorable barriers was just plain stupidity. Strange enough, the boy's look changed from annoyance to amusement when Kakashi's bunshin popped up in front of him a few moments later. He's smiling. Either he is really stupid or this is some kind of trick, the clone of Kakashi eyed the boy suspiciously. Thank you, sensei, Naruto said, nonchalantly. Not against the bunshin, but against the real Kakashi. And not from down there, in the clearing, but from behind him. How did you get here? Kakashi managed to say, after a short pause, as he was caught completely off guard. In fact, he could still see Naruto in the clearing, happily waving at the confused Jonin. Bunshin. Cage bunshin. The boy grinned. Well, I had to finish this while you were still underestimating me, so I only used the barrier as a diversion. I prepared my own jutsu as well as a cage bunshin. Naruto deliberately kept vague about his skills. The bunshin leapt out of the smoke created by my barriers, giving me the opportunity to track you down. It was a basic way of distracting you, though it probably only worked because you were not expecting anything from me to begin with. But how did you sneak up to me? Kakashi wondered. The diversion had been smart, but the part where the real Naruto had gotten to him confused him a lot. How did you find me? I never noticed a thing. Simple. One of the seals I know makes sure you can go around unnoticed, unless you touch someone or start talking. The bell was kinda hard to take without touching you though, the boy admitted while scratching the back of his head, with a somewhat embarrassed look on his face. I expected that your reflexes would have kicked in any moment, but luckily it worked. And, well, as for finding you, you probably know who I am. No offense, but sensing you is not that hard at all. You're a rather troubled person, so negative emotions can be sensed aplenty. Still, it was obvious to the Jonin that Naruto hadn't expected this to be this easy. Kakashi nearly lost count of how many people he had tested, and none had ever taken the bell. Sure, a few had gotten close, but to pull this off, never had Kakashi expected the boy to possess such skill. After a few moments, Kakashi regained enough composure to start worrying about the other two. You wait down there, Naruto, by the logs over there. But be careful that you don't trigger the traps. Gay, what a kid. He didn't even give me the chance to start reading my book. Damn, I haven't felt embarrassed like this since Itachi. I'm going to be the laughingstock of Konoha when this leaks out. It took a while, but when noon finally arrived, Kakashi returned to the three stubs at the center of the clearing. All things considered, Kakashi was somewhat impressed. Not that he would show it to them, of course. No need to make his genin too complacent. Especially because they did fail the actual test. But the individual level of skill which Naruto and Sasuke showed had been reason enough for him to be a bit more lenient than usual. They had piqued his interest, if only a little. Sakura had just kicked Naruto, who had been sitting against one of the logs and was fast asleep. Where the hell were you? How can you sleep during the test? Did you want to fail? She shouted. Sasuke looked annoyed, but Naruto, for one of the first times, showed emotion. And he was angry. Go kick someone else, birdbrain. Whenever you can't deal with your own shit, you always need someone to throw your frustration at, don't you, Sakura? Before she could reply, he threw the bell at her face. Here, he sneered, ignoring the wincing girl. If you act like that, it is obvious that you guys couldn't catch one. Now you can at least see how it looks like. What? Sakura started to protest, not believing what she saw. How did you? But Sasuke-kun. Well, seems like Naruto-kun was the only one who caught a bell. And it looks like you two need to go back to the academy, Kakashi sighed. But that doesn't matter. All three of you should just quit pretending to be shinobi. That certainly caught the attention of the three. Naruto was the first to recover. That cannot be right. You said that we had to catch a bell to pass it, and I caught one, he said, his eyes narrowing. If you think like that, you should already know why I think all three of you should quit. Why I think that none of you deserve to be shinobi. Naruto, your performance was easily the best. Yes, Sasuke, the Jonin responded to the scowl Sasuke made. But Naruto, you never considered your teammates. Even worse, you hid your abilities from them, hindering any chance of teamwork. Not like they ever intended to work with me, Naruto scowled. Sasuke, the Jonin continued, ignoring the Uzumaki. You just rushed away on your own. Right from the start, you never considered your teammates, just like Naruto. How is this teamwork? You cannot expect yourself to do everything, no matter how good you think you might be. You came close to grabbing the last bell, I have to commend you for that, but otherwise your performance was unworthy of a genin. And Sakura, your performance was the worst. Easily. You really should not have fallen for a simply genjutsu like that, Kakashi added with a disapproving tone. Unlike the others, you thought of someone besides yourself, but you only focused on Sasuke. You were close enough when Naruto caught me off guard. If you had paid a little attention to what he did, you would have had a fair chance of getting a bell as well. I don't say your affection is something bad, but at least try to control your heart a little. If you allow yourself to be blinded by your love for Sasuke, you can better quit entirely. Just go work in a hospital, or something like that. If you continue as a kunoichi with that mindset, you would only be a liability in the field. A burden to your team. Sasuke looked infuriated, and Sakura blushed, ashamed but incapable of objecting to the words Kakashi had just spoken. Naruto was merely confused. Why would this Jonin expect others to want to work together with him? Surely the man must know who and what he was, so why even expect such a thing? All three of you should consider this. If you want to become a shinobi, you need to think about your team first. If you only think about yourself, it will not be just your own funeral, but also that of your team members. And then I don't even want to think about the possible consequences it could have for the village if you ended up failing a mission. Kakashi paused for a moment. But, since you did manage to catch one bell, I suppose it would be fair to give you another try. Stop underestimating shinobi. Even the most basic genin should be capable of teamwork. We will start again in 15 minutes. Kakashi took Naruto's bell and vanished into a puff of smoke. Perhaps I should just fail on purpose, just for the hell of it. Would also be a chance to avoid being in this shitty team, Naruto considered for a moment, before he rejected the idea. Going back to the academy again would hardly be any better than this. Both would be boring, but at least missions could be fun. Being out of the village would certainly be a welcome development. I don't get it, why work as a team if one of us fails anyway? Sakura acted confused. The test isn't about the bells, he just said so, Sasuke replied with an undercurrent of anger. How did you manage to catch that bell? He pointed at Naruto, who was somewhat offended by the Uchiha's rudeness. At least, he would be, if he wasn't accustomed to it already. Have you really not paid any attention at all? Morons. Naruto sighed. Listen, I'm not particularly happy about this team either, but I don't plan to fail due to something like this. Yes, I might be able to catch him again. But it seems unlikely that the same way will work again. He's too good for that. The seal I just used to sneak up to Kakashi only applies to me. I have yet to figure out how to do it on anything besides myself and my bunshin. Besides, the chakra cost is annoying. Not something either of you could handle, I guess. But I do have other options. All I need to know is where he is, and someone to hold him still for a second. And that is where you need us, Sasuke inferred with a sigh. Even though it severely hurt his pride to cooperate with the blonde, he knew there was no other way against this opponent. Failing this test was an even worse option. And in order to pass, teamwork was inevitable. All right then, you are right, we have no other option. Not against someone like Kakashi. What do you need us to do? Wait, what are you planning to do, Naruto? Sakura demanded, surprised by Sasuke's sudden twist. Well, if I put enough chakra in my Inryoku no Fuin, gravitation seal, it would probably immobilize him long enough for someone else to capture the bells. Though, I'm not sure how long it would restrain an actual Jonin. The downside of that seal is that it applies to everything within the range of the seal, the moment I release it. So I won't be able to move either. And whoever manages to lure Kakashi-sensei will be caught as well. Naruto looked at Sakura, and smirked for a moment. So distracting Kakashi-sensei will be your job. Between the two of you, Sasuke is obviously the fastest, and considering the limited duration of the seal, and the distance that needs to be crossed, he would be the only one to have a proper chance to grab the bells. There is no alternative. I sounds too much like a gamble, Sasuke scowled. Not unless you or Sakura have some hidden power, Naruto replied dryly. Luckily, they would not understand the irony of the remark he just made. Besides, he knew that Sakura would never hide anything that could impress Sasuke, and Sasuke would never hide anything if it gave him the opportunity to show how superior he was. Before I fell asleep, I watched Sensei move. Obviously, his speed is far above my own. His taijutsu is perhaps the best I've ever seen, unless I'd take someone like Hiyashi-sama or Hizashi-sama into account. And he also uses skills to hide and escape which I've never seen before. Not even mentioning the speed at which he executes his hand seals. We don't even stand a ghost of a chance if we rush up to him. Hell, even if the entire class was here we would lose against this guy. Especially when he stops underestimating us. But how? If Sensei is that much better, how? Sakura muttered. It is obvious that this task is designed so it would be impossible for any individual genin to even get near those darn bells. Yet still you did it. Sasuke grimaced, before he nodded. Teamwork is the only viable option. Sakura could not follow all the new information. The outcast, Naruto, suddenly possessed great skill. Skill great enough that even Sasuke-kun would listen to him. But there are only two. The bells don't matter. Sasuke cut her off, annoyed that the girl was still repeating that. This is simply a test to look at our teamwork. And considering this is the first time we work together, it's probably aimed at our potential, and not the actual performance. Teams always consist of 3 genin and a jonin sensei. We just got fooled, he concluded, frowning. Yep, that's correct. And this sounds a lot better, Kakashi said while looking down on the genin from the stub behind them. None of them had noticed him being there, a testament of his skill. Naruto wondered how the Jonin had managed to suppress his presence like this. Though, he knew he was focused on planning and not on his sense. Kakashi smiled carefree, underneath his mask. If you continue to act like this, you might just make decent genin after all. I guess I can let you guys pass. Though, I need to hear more about your fuinjutsu, Naruto. Well, that was partly true. The other part was that Kakashi did not want to bother with another few hours of being chased. And that fuinjutsu of Naruto sounds dangerous. What else did he hide? This surely reeks of Jiraiya-sama's meddling. It would make sense if he is the one who kept the library from Minato-sensei and Kushina-sama. It would make sense for Naruto to get them eventually. Though, I wonder why Hokage-sama never said anything about it. Then again, perhaps I should have read those files a bit better. You know, you guys are the first who didn't start fighting with each other after I scolded you, Kakashi continued after hopping down from the stub. Most of them were just morons, who only thought about their own chances, blamed each other, and were not willing to risk being the one not getting a bell. There are all those great codes and rules, but most people just fail to understand that they have to risk their lives, or sometimes chose to forfeit their lives. And only trash sacrifices others for a meaningless mission. The real heroes of Konoha you can see on the stone monument at the entrance of the village. Those are the people who sacrificed their lives for their teammates, for their friends, family and village. Tomorrow at 9 we meet again at this training ground, all right. Just tell him about the team I'm stuck with, I guess he will want to know. Though Kakashi-sensei was one of the few Jonin he previously mentioned, so I suspect that he already knows, Naruto grumbled. Hinata, who noticed him as he entered the estate, frowned. Whatever he talked to, it was small. Curiously, she decided to get closer. Though, you might add that he could have picked another pair of genin, if he had a hand in the formation of my team anyway. Putting me in a team with those two idiots. Though I suppose Sakura wouldn't have been such a problem if he wasn't around, Naruto added sourly. I'd rather have had Choji or Shikamaru around, or Hai. Hinata tried to speak up, though they were both cut off by someone else grumbling something unintelligible. Why didn't you call a messenger if that's all you want? An odd voice croaked after that. And a few days ago you complained that I hadn't summoned you enough, Kichi, Naruto chuckled. Well, this is no action, nor is it fun. And I should go, before the chick sees me, the one named Kichi said before vanishing in a tiny cloud of smoke. Hinata noticed Naruto stare at her, and was unpleasantly aware of how her jaw had dropped. AF frog, she managed to say. Naruto laughed, which surprised Hinata. Naruto did not laugh very often. Not genuine laughter, at least. Never mention that to them, they hate frogs. Don't ask me why, though. No, Gamakichi is a toad, Naruto chuckled. I signed the toad summoning contract a few years ago, he explained upon seeing her confusion. Jiraiya made me do it, and taught me summoning them. Best way to exchange messages, he said, as we are the only two who have the contract. He also made me promise to keep it a secret. So, please don't tell anyone, especially not Hiyashi-sama. I heard he met Gamabunta, Gamakichi's dad, a long time ago. They weren't very friendly from what I gathered. Toads aren't very well mannered, he smiled. And your family is, well, they like etiquette a bit too much to handle Gamabunta. I see, Hinata stammered. How did your meeting with your Jonin-sensei go? I got that Kakashi guy. Remember the one that Hizashi-sama is always grumbling about? The guy who is always a few hours late. Hinata smiled faintly as the recalled her uncle's latest rant concerning the less punctual Jonin. Oja-san did say that Kakashi-san was highly skilled. I saw that during the test he gave us, Naruto agreed. Test. Hinata wondered. Kurenai-sensei did not give us a test. She seemed very nice, though she did scold Kiba-san a few times. Knowing Kiba, she didn't do that without reason, Naruto frowned. But yeah, Kakashi-sensei tested us for our teamwork. Not very surprising. In hindsight, if you know a little about my team, he added sarcastically. Sakura and Sasuke in one team might prove to be a bit troublesome. Hinata copied one of her other classmates. That's quite the understatement, Naruto added darkly. Sasuke seems to be just as annoyed by her behavior. I suppose everything annoys him. Naruto suddenly looked at his watch, and apologized to her. Apologies, Hinata-sama, I have to run some errands for Haruki-san and Ako-san. I told you to stop with, Sama, Hinata said softly, unheard by the boy as he already ran away. Though, she supposed that it was progress, being able to talk with him for this long. Usually, either she messed up, or he went away with some polite reason. She always got the feeling he wanted to flee, whenever someone was talking to him. As she turned towards the main building on the compound, Ako appeared. The younger sister of Hinata's personal guard, Ko, had been tasked to take care of Naruto and Haruki, after the latter had suffered a particularly heavy seizure a few months ago. Apologies, Hinata-sama, but Haruki-san asked me if you wanted to speak to him. The brown-haired young woman bowed, and led Hinata towards the man's cottage after Hinata had nodded. Ako was a bit of an atypical branch Hyuga. While kind and responsible, almost to the point where she appeared to be docile, Ako also had a bit of a temperament once you got to know her. Due to that, she had gotten into a chain of events which had led her to serving Naruto. Wearing the standard full-length kimono with a white apron, Ako was now the example of seriousness. Hinata could not figure out why, but for some reason the young woman seemed to be conflicted about something. The inquisitive gaze from her white eyes made Hinata shudder, when the young servant held the door open for her. Good afternoon, Hinata-sama, Haruki greeted the girl from his chair. Don't look that worried, please. I don't look that bad, do I? Though I hope you don't feel offended when I don't stand, he added with a slight grin, before nodding towards Ako, who left the room and closed the doors. Though it is not very courteous to do this, I'd like to discuss Naruto-kun's well-being with you. Haruki became a little cautious. I am sworn not to share any details, but I do believe this is necessary. You must understand Naruto-kun has some burdens to carry. Many people dislike him for that, which in the return also adds another burden for him. Hinata looked downcast. Haruki-san, why do people hate Naruto so much? Otu-sama won't tell me, and Ka-san said that I should either ask Otu-sama or Naruto-kun himself. Tears appeared in her white eyes. Naruto-kun never did anything wrong, yet no one ever gives him a chance. It is so unfair. I know he acts like it doesn't bother him, but he hides his feelings and evades other people whenever he has the chance to do so. Haruki finished the sentence for her. I must apologize, but I cannot tell you more about this either. What I do want to ask of you is to help him. Naruto-kun has no luxury of friends, and no one of his own age to share his burdens with. Hinata's shocked look made Haruki laugh. I apologize for being so blunt, but I know you are quite uncomfortable around Naruto. On the other hand, you are one of the few people who Naruto talks with, who he cares for, and who genuinely care about him as well. I think that Naruto keeps people at a distance in order to protect himself, but he sees you as the one who saved him from those orphanages. I think that, if anyone is capable of helping him, it is you, Hinata-sama. If you are willing to do so. Hinata's blushed, and seemed confused. But Naruto-kun saved me. Twice. How could he feel indebted to me? My guess would be that Naruto-kun thinks he did what was the right thing to do, while the Hyuga clan did something for him which was unprecedented to him. He had only experienced orphanages, where people only thought of him as another burden, at best. The Hyuga clan took him in, trained him, and educated him, Haruki said. And I believe Naruto now thinks in terms of what his duty to others is. I never knew he felt like that. Whenever I talk to him, I always seem to mess everything up. I just freeze and faint. I'm just a failure. I believe Hinata-sama has a lot more strength than she thinks. Please believe in that too. I know our clan puts high demands on you, but there are many kinds of strength. Your kindness is not a weakness, Haruki added kindly, looking at her shocked face. Your kindness could be the thing which can save Naruto. I fear what could happen if Naruto-kun completely loses faith in humanity. And Kami knows that people did enough for that to be understandable, Haruki sighed. Hinata nodded, seemingly more confident than when she entered. Even though she was not in the same team as Naruto, she could at least talk to him when he was at the Hyuga compound. The few years older Akko let her out, with a look of sympathy. Please ask me if you ever need any help, Hinata-sama. I will do whatever I can for Naruto-kun. Hokage-sama. Kakashi bowed. Ah. Good afternoon, Kakashi, Hiruzen answered. So, how did your team perform at the test? HMMPF. Can't say it much of a team. Individually, both exceeded my expectations, but I still don't understand why you insisted in putting Sasuke and Naruto on one team. They are about the two least compatible genin I've ever seen. If you ask me, putting them together will only result in more trouble. The Hokage sighed, and gestured that Kakashi should take the seat opposite to his desk. I know that both boys carry heavy burdens. But my hope is that they might be able to understand each other because of those burdens. Hiruzen paused for a moment. Besides, they both need your Sharingan. Sasuke will need someone to guide him when he awakens his own, and Naruto, the Sharingan might be the best chance we have if he should lose control. The visible part of Kakashi's face paled. You mean you really expect me to? How stable is his seal? The seal is as strong as it could be, after all these years. But the Kyuubi no Kitsune is no simple creature. Not something that is stopped, even with a seal as strong as the one which Minato made. I fear its influence on Naruto could become dangerous. You are one of the very few who might stand a chance when the monster takes over, and it might be possible that Sasuke could help you, if he manages to awake his Sharingan. Kakashi nodded, knowing what he would need to do. This assignment was more dangerous than expected, almost enough to make him long for his old position with the Anbu. I do have a few questions regarding Naruto's current level of skill, Hokage-sama. That was quite a harsh thing to do, to put such a burden on an already troubled girl. Haruki's white eyes widened in shock. Hitomi-sama. So, cousin, can you explain to me why you took this course of action? You must know there already have been a few attempts on her life, because the consensus is that my daughter is unfit to be heir. Why did you add another burden on her frail shoulders? Recognizing the undercurrent of anger, Haruki decided to tell her everything. Well, as much as could, without violating the trust Naruto placed on him. I realize her burden very well, cousin. Yet I also see Naruto's burden. I truly believe that they can help each other. Yes, the majority of the clan would not approve of her rather obvious affection for him, but I highly doubt either of them would care. Well, not that Naruto realizes any of it yet, even though Hinata is not very difficult to understand in this aspect. Haruki sighed deeply. Naruto may have his grand goal of becoming Hokage, but that is not his real goal. To him, becoming Hokage is merely a way to become accepted, and to change the world that tormented him. From the moment he was born, his life has been a struggle. I care about him as if he was my own son. Minako and I always wanted to have a kid, but you know she died before we could get married. And as things are now, there is no doubt that I will soon join her. I do not regret it, you know that as well as I do. But I cannot simply abandon Naruto to the hatred of our village, or the hatred of the Kyuubi, either. You of all people must be able to see that he is slowly losing the struggle. His body language fluctuates, his chakra sometimes spikes, and its color. I know enough, also that Hiashi is concerned. But to shove it on my daughter, I cannot accept that. I know. But she is the only one capable of helping. In their own ways, they care for each other. More than even you would expect, cousin. If there is one who can break through the downward spiral he is locked in, it is your daughter. At the same time, he is the perfect person to help her with her problems. And about the consequences. Haruki took the time to formulate it carefully, knowing full well his cousin was the Hyuga's master of ready body language. I do not think Naruto would allow anyone to harm Hinata. Hitomi's eyes narrowed at his statement. Knowing that the boy's true lineage would not present a problem, she never opposed the two children getting closer, even though Hiashi had his reservations. But she thought it was even more important because of Hinata's feelings. Being accepted by the one she loved, her self-confidence would increase, and with it biggest problem in her fighting ability. Which, in turn, might change the way the clan saw her. Still, the risks were no laughing matter. Though she clearly saw her cousin was hiding something. Were he or Naruto somehow connected to the failed attempts on her daughter's life? Either way, there are no signs he means to hurt Hinata, even though he knows the risk he took. Hitomi sighed, and rubbed brows. Very well, I will not interfere. Not yet at least. But I warn you, she is not yet aware of his burden. Her response when she will realize it can cause a lot trouble, especially if you are right on how much he cares about her. But you should at the very least briefly teach him about the subjects of love and relationships. Though I have to admit that he is mostly an enigma to me, it is clear that he is oblivious on that, she chuckled. That would make teaching him etiquette look like nothing. After raising his brows, knowing how difficult that could become, he bowed. I will, Hitomi-sama. She left him while thinking how she could bring this to Hiyashi. Gently. He might not think his daughter would be a suitable heir, but he did not seem to look very favorable towards her getting involved with a boy, especially not when that boy was Konoha's Jinchuriki as well. Or perhaps she should just remain silent. After all, she knew better than anyone that Hiyashi used to be just as clueless as Naruto. She smiled while thinking back on how long it had taken until he finally realized that she loved him. Even after she taught him to read body language. Chapter 5. Morning Exercise. It was nearly 10:30 when Kakashi finally showed up. Much later than the time he had said they were supposed to meet. Naruto, knowing the man's reputation, had been too bored to stay awake and had fallen asleep sitting next to a large oak. Sakura knew that Sasuke was somewhere nearby, but he had stalked off after she had tried to talk to him. Sasuke-kun. Sensei finally showed up, the pink-haired Kunoichi shouted, waking up Naruto in the process. Morning guys, Kakashi said on a casual tone. Weren't we supposed to meet at 9? Sasuke scowled. 9 you say? Kakashi raised his visible brow. Ah well, let's not fret about such details. Now we are all here, we should start our job. Naruto stood up, his bored expression making it obvious that he still had no interest at this charade anymore. You will always show up late, won't you, sensei? Kakashi ignored the remark, and instead focused on putting his flak jacket right. Well, we had a little experience in teamwork yesterday, but let's talk a little about our skills. You guys are supposed to work as a team, and the first thing I expect from my teammates is to know what they can do. Sensei. What do you mean by skills? Sakura asks, raising her hand. We just left the academy. Attending the academy did not stop you from learning jutsu outside the standard curriculum, right? Kakashi said on a dry tone. Well, no. But, Sakura, in your case I would recommend studying genjutsu, Kakashi said to the hesitating girl. From what I saw yesterday, it seemed to me like you were the genjutsu type. You definitely have the precise chakra that is required for it. Genjutsu. But that would, Sakura started, before she noticed Sasuke's dismissive look. Of course, the Uchiha have the advantage with their Sharingan, Kakashi said pointedly, also spotting Sasuke's expression. But inborn talent rarely matches the actual skill people can reach if they work hard for it. They don't teach proper genjutsu at the academy anyway, Sasuke said coldly. The basic skills aside, I can execute some kaiden ninjutsu. I saw, yesterday, Kakashi remarked. Though, with some additional training in your chakra control, you would be able to do more damage. Your affinity for it alone is not enough. Not by a long shot, the Jonin turned to the silent last member of his group. Basic skills, plus some futon ninjutsu, and fuinjutsu, Naruto sighed when Kakashi kept looking at him. As well as Kage Bunshin. I saw your Kage Bunshin yesterday. Very impressive for a genin to master an A-rank jutsu like that, Kakashi admitted. And I would like to hear more about your fuinjutsu. What I can do with it. Naruto frowned. He sighed when Kakashi kept looking. Well, I can create markers for barriers, and have a variety of more offensive seals next to it. Such as Kakusa no Fuin, Stealth Seal, Inryoku no Fuin, Gravitation Seal, and Omori no Fuin, Weight Seal, Naruto shrugged. Those few he named had already been revealed anyway, so there wasn't any point in remaining silent about them. Nothing special. I mostly focused on learning the basics of fuinjutsu, thus far, rather than memorizing specific jutsu. Nothing special he says, Kakashi smirked under his mask. While I presume that these jutsu are relatively low-level fuinjutsu, learning them and being able to use them in combat are completely different things, I wonder how many of our Jonin or Anbu are capable of such a feat. Then again, the kid is an Uzumaki. It makes me wonder whether he is still hiding more. Naruto did not have to look at Sakura's surprised face, or Sasuke's annoyed expression, to sense the tension in their little group. Not that he cared much about the opinion his teammates had. They didn't like him, he knew that. And that uncaring Jonin seemed little better. Although Naruto considered that indifference was less annoying than outright hatred. Still, he had plenty of reason as to why he wasn't willing to tell that much about himself. Well, I'd suggest we make a little schedule from now on, Kakashi said. Every day we start at 1 in the afternoon and execute missions together. These missions will be easy ones in the beginning, seeing how you are all merely rookies. I suggest you all spend your time in the morning wisely, and train yourselves hard. If you want any help on it, either ask me, or consult the Central Konoha Library. With the clearance you guys have as genin, you can probably access most of the basic information you need to improve your skill set. So, that's individual work, Sakura asked with a disappointed voice, while looking at Sasuke. If you guys want to become shinobi, you should be able to take care of yourself, though most things are done as a group, your individual skill is very important as well. I won't lie, I expect discipline from you guys. If you want me to take you seriously, that is, Kakashi said on an even tone. Or you can just mess up, and I'll treat you like kids. Your choice. Take today to plan out what you want to do, and meet me here at noon tomorrow. After we discuss your plans, we will take our first mission. Or he just doesn't want to admit he is too lazy to teach us personally, Naruto sighed, looking at the smoke his teacher left behind as he disappeared. Jisun certainly knows how to pick him. So, how did your genin do? Yuhi Kurenai asked when Kakashi entered the room. Sarutobi Asuma and Mitarashi Anko looked up curiously, while the fifth Jonin, Yamanaka Inoichi, only continued his grumbling. They passed, Kakashi shrugged. Genin who passed your test? Anko exclaimed. Wow, impressive, considering your track record. My track record is not half as bad as yours, Anko, Kakashi smirked from under his mask. I take it you failed your team again this year. Of course, she smiled. Those fools should even be happy I did. Possibly the worst team I saw in 5 years. Though, they endured longer than I had initially expected. Well, until my snakes caught them, she chuckled, triggering some concerned looks from the others. We weren't very lucky. Indeed, Inoichi sighed, seemingly depressed. Perhaps the curriculum at the academy should be improved, if kids like them were able to pass. Still, with Kakashi passing his team, that makes 3 teams who made it this year, Asuma remarked. While I have to admit my team does have quite some work to do, if it wants to function properly, it really isn't that bad this year. Sorry Inoichi, he added when the blonde Jonin's head jerked up, but you really spoil your daughter too much. She's proud and bossy, and in combination with Choji, who lacks confidence in himself, and Shikamaru, who is as lazy as one can get, their teamwork is completely terrible at this point. I could have told you that in advance, Kurenai smiled. I followed that class for a day, when Hokage-sama ordered me to take charge of one of the new genin squads. I know you didn't want to be a Jonin sensei so soon after being promoted, so why didn't you just fail them? You were too damn nice, as always, Anko laughed at her friend. Well, I have my doubts on this team, but they are good kids. I couldn't fail them, even if they all have their flaws. My only worry is that they lack the skills for when they get in a real fight. But as trackers or scouts, they will be great, Kurenai replied with some pride. An Inuzuka, a Hyuga, and an Aburame, Inoichi said with noticeable envy in his voice. Though I guess you would be right. Imagine that team if the Uchiha boy was in it, that would certainly increase their fighting ability. Yeah, how did the famous Uchiha Prodigy do, Kakashi? Anko asks. He was the top of his class, after all. Kakashi shrugged. He did pretty well, for a genin. Not as exceptionally gifted as his brother was at his age, but with his lineage, he should be able to become one of Konoha's strongest shinobi in a few years. That good. Asuma whistled. Though of course it is a bit unfair to compare him to Itachi. Yeah, Kakashi sighed. Itachi was unlike any I worked with. He was already exceptional when he just joined the Anbu. I never saw anyone with such talent and determination. Though perhaps. What's wrong? Inoichi asked when the silver-haired Jonin remained silent. Don't tell me you have another genin in your team with such talent. He laughed. I mean, if you look at the academy results, Sakura-chan excelled only in the theoretical tests, enough to rival my Ino-chan. While the Uzumaki, well, we all know. The others nodded, and remained silent. Anko even scowled, thinking back of the Kyuubi's attack on Konoha. Kurenai solemnly remembered her father, who had fallen that day. He scored average on the academy. But either he was hiding his skill, or those tests were falsified, Kakashi said, somewhat surprised by the others. He caught me off guard when I tried to test him, managing to capture one of the bells. What test did you do? Kurenai asks. The usual, they had to get the 2 bells I carried. But I guess I underestimated them this time, Kakashi admitted. Sasuke is considered a genius, and he came close to catching 1 bell, nearly touching it once. Which is rather good for a mere genin. But Naruto, like I said, he must have hidden his real skill all these years. Next time I face him I'd better use my Sharingan or I'll be fooled once more. The brat managed to snatch on of the bells right at the start of my test. Asuma whistled, and the others seemed equally impressed. They all knew Kakashi's reputation, and a mere genin pulling off such a feat was extraordinary. Besides, it was supposed to be an impossible test, with the aim of forcing the rookies to work together against an overwhelmingly stronger opponent. For a mere genin to force Kakashi to use the Sharingan was. Did he use? Well, you know, it's chakra. Anko asks, with a hint of fear. It was the only conclusion she could reach to logically explain Naruto's surprising skill. And by the looks the others cast at him, they too thought that way. No, he never needed it, Kakashi smiled. And I hope he never will. No, he used Fuinjutsu to somehow hide himself from me, while I tried to attack his Kage Bunshin. Kage Bunshin, Asuma exclaimed. Damn, how did a kid like him learn that jutsu? I really do not know how he learned it. I think you would have to ask your father for that, Kakashi replied dryly. But with Naruto's reserves, it was to be expected that he would never get the chance to grow up like the other kids. Unlike us, who grew up in a time of war, none of those kids had to struggle like Naruto had to. Aside from him and Sasuke, none really know what it is to suffer. I admit I am curious to see how those two will grow while on one team. They did not seem very compatible, Kurenai remarked. I mean, I saw how the Haruno girl acted. And Naruto and Sasuke seemed pretty much the opposite of each other. The Uchiha wasn't exactly subtle with his sneers against Naruto, even though Naruto ignored him most of the time. Kakashi nodded, but did not want to repeat his hesitation regarding the decision that the Hokage made. It'll be fine, he answered nonchalantly. So everyone's curiosity is satisfied. Where is Genma, by the way? He failed his team in what must be an all-time record, Anko laughed. The bastard was even faster than I was. He already got back to his regular duties though. Hey, why don't we stop by at Dangoya's? Enjoying his break, Yumino Iruka took a stroll through the village. With a class having graduated, and the next one not having started yet, he had a lot more spare time. Which was a good thing. As much as he loved teaching, those kids could really get under his skin at times. Lost in thoughts, Iruka suddenly noticed a blonde tuft of hair between the people on the street. Hey, Naruto! Iruka shouted. How are you doing? He added, when he caught up with the surprised genin. Fine, Iruka-sensei, Naruto smiled. And you? Ah, good, actually. Though the academy is a little quiet now you guys left, the Chunin laughed. It had taken him some time to get over the fact that Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, but in the end, when he got to learn who the boy was underneath his distant facade, Iruka had come to appreciate the boy's company. Though, fewer classes also mean more spare time. Come on, I'll treat you some ramen, I owe you that, remember? Thanks, sensei, Naruto smiled, quickly following his former teacher to Ichiraku's. Now, tell me all about your team. Well, that was a story which didn't last very long. Naruto didn't lie about his discontent, from how he and Sasuke barely tolerated each other, to Sakura's fangirlism. Kakashi wasn't really a subject which Naruto had to spend many words on either. The Jonin seemed to be perfectly happy with not doing a thing for them, and just left them to figure out their own paths. So what it boils down to is that you guys train in your own time, individually, and take missions as a team in the afternoon, Iruka repeated. So what are you planning to do for your training? Well, I got no shortage of work, Naruto admitted. I mean, my clan's fuinjutsu is a bit difficult to learn. So I've heard, Iruka smiled. There are some quite incredible rumors going around about you, Naruto. Why did you keep such skill hidden? Rumors. Naruto was a bit worried. Rumors regarding him usually were not good. At all. Most of the times it would revolve around the Kyuubi and how Naruto was an abomination. Etc. There was never a shortage in stupidity. It seems you managed to trick the infamous copy ninja Kakashi, so you bet that this is the kind of news that travels fast throughout the village, the man laughed, while Tsuki handed them their bowls. The owner of Ichiraku's frowned. Kakashi. Isn't that the guy who recently stepped down from the position as captain of the Anbu? Kakashi-sensei was part of the Anbu. Naruto axed surprised. Hitaki Kakashi is quite a famous jonin, Iruka smirked at the oblivious boy. Tricking him is quite a feat. Tsuki laughed and congratulated his now famous customer, adding that the ramen was free for them today. A thing which definitely did not go unnoticed. Naruto attacked his ramen with doubled ferocity. Much to the dismay of Ayame. The young woman had no idea how she was supposed to keep up with that. When Naruto ordered his fourth bowl, another extra large serving of miso ramen, Iruka had to apologize. Sorry, Naruto, but I have to go now, or I'll be late at the academy. And remember to keep variety in training. You need to work on your taijutsu, right? If you ever need any help, make sure to ask me, alright? Yes, sensei. Naruto smiled back, waving Iruka goodbye. No matter how people treated Naruto, Iruka had always been a sympathetic man. The only teacher who treated Naruto as an actual human being. You actually want to train? You must be nuts, an exhausted voice startled him. Naruto was not used to people talking to him, as most people in Konoha tended to avoid him. And with his other sense, not many people were capable of sneaking up on him. Unless he was too focused on a subject, but that wasn't the case right now. Hey, don't you live at Neji's place? Naruto looked at the brown-haired kunoichi who had just ordered something to eat. Yeah, I live at the Hyuga compound, Naruto frowned. Aren't you Neji's teammate? Tenten-san, if I recall correctly. Thanks, the girl said when Tsuki gave her, the usual. Yesh, by Dame Ishdenden, hungry, eat fished, she spoke, while frantically attacking her bowl of ramen at the same time. Naruto was somewhat surprised by her behavior, as if the kunoichi who had her hair in two buns had not eaten for days. Naruto shrugged, and attacked his own bowl, before his precious ramen would get cold. So, you plan to train on your own, Naruto-kun? Tenten said after she finished her bowl in a time which impressed even a self-proclaimed ramen expert as Naruto. Yeah, that was what my sensei told me. Who is your sensei? Hitaki Kakashi. Kakashi. Where? Another voice startled them. Not here, Lee, just sit down, Tenten said somewhat annoyed. You already finished your extra lap. Lee nodded enthusiastically and quickly ordered something to eat. You guys were training just now. Naruto frowned. Yeah, Maeda guy is our sensei, and his morning exercise is hellish, Tenten groaned. Lee blinked a few times, which Naruto found rather amusing due to the remarkably round eyes. Guy sensei makes us work hard, so that we can get stronger each day, the heavily eyebrowed boy added with more than a little pride. I see. Naruto looked from the green-clad genin, who now attacked his food, to the exhausted kunoichi. So the other jonin trained their genin themselves. As he had suspected, Kakashi was tardy. What does he make you do in this training regime? Lots of push-ups, sit-ups, and running, more of that sort of things, Tenten said. And after all that we get 2 hours of sparring. Damn, Naruto whistled. You guys make long days. Well, Lee starts early. At 7, each day, usually I join them at 8, Tenten admitted. After 4 hours, we usually get something to eat in this area, before we join with Neji and do some missions. Neji trains at the Hyuga estate, she added a bit softer, almost as if she was disappointed. Yeah, I've seen, Naruto remarked. He spends each morning with Hisashi-sama and seems to train pretty hard. I guess his Juken requires another approach with training. Tenten nodded. That, and because Lee always takes the sparring too seriously. He started it. Lee looked up from his food. Neji certainly is not the most friendly person around, Naruto said with some sarcasm, while attempting to remain neutral in front of Neji's teammates. What did he do to you? He told Lee that he was a failure. A loser. That is why Lee made it his goals to beat Neji. Yash. I will beat Neji. And then he will see that hard work can beat any genius. Naruto smiled at the overly enthusiastic Genin. Those geniuses are certainly annoying. I have the bad luck of getting one in my team as well. The arrogant bastard always thinks he is better than me. Lee nodded frantically, as if he fully understood Naruto's problem. A heavily panting Jonin joined them. Though, for a moment Naruto had wondered if something was wrong with his eyes. The Jonin was an adult version of Lee. The same haircut, the same suit, the same brows. Ah, Lee, Tenten, there you are. I told you, Guy-sensei, the kunoichi said dryly. Doing even more laps than Lee is pointless. Guy quickly seemed to recover, as Chuki gave him some food as well. Apparently, Chuki was accustomed to this ritual, as he had already finished preparing the meal before the Jonin got there. Naruto, why don't you join us in our morning training? Tenten remarked, anxious to have someone normal around her while spending the hours along the two training fanatics who seemed intent on driving her mad. Yeah, that way, I would have someone around me who is still sane. Tenten pointed at Lee and Guy who looked surprised. And there are some great stories about you going on. And seeing how you don't have anywhere to train in the morning. Ah, but, that's a great idea. Tenten, Guy suddenly shouted, startling Chuki and his daughter, Ayame. But none more than Naruto. Certainly this Jonin must know who Naruto was, and still he thought it was a great idea. I heard great things of you, that even my eternal rival was surprised by your skill. I would be honored if you took your morning training with us. Yash. That way, we can train as a three-man team as well, and ignite the fires of youth even higher. Yash. Lee shouted, before the Genin, in his enthusiasm, accidentally knocked away Guy's bowl of ramen, straight into the man's face. Lee, you fool. Guy hit his student on his head, rubbing the noodles from his face. A true youthful ninja should always control himself. I'm sorry, sensei, Lee cried. Lee, Guy sensei. Lee, Guy sensei. Tenten facepalmed when she saw their usual antics. Don't worry, Naruto. Just look away. They always do this. Tenten sighed when she saw Naruto's baffled look. Are you sure this is all right? Naruto said, not sure what to make of the near-identical duo. Was the Jonin too silly to be bothered by the Kyuubi? He seemed to be completely insane, yet Naruto knew that someone holding that rank also had to be smart enough to earn it. You live at the Hyuga place, right? I'll pick you up at tomorrow morning. Tenten smiled, ignoring her slightly insane teammate and sensei. Why the disappointed look, Naruto-kun? Guy asked loudly. Naruto sat down, too tired to keep standing up. I knew, my stamina and speed were bad. But why you just did the same things as we did, on your first try? Tenten exclaimed. Perhaps, but much slower, and getting this tired in only a few hours like this, my condition really has deteriorated, Naruto panted. He had focused too much on learning Fuinjutsu, that his physical condition had gone down. Dumb, Haruki even warned me that this would happen. That's not a very youthful thing to say, Naruto-kun, Lee frowned with his humongous brows. Indeed, Guy agreed, it took Tenten and Lee a lot of training to reach this level. You should feel a little more pride, Naruto-kun. Perhaps, Naruto sighed. You know, why don't you join us more often? Guy proposed. You mentioned that you had other materials to learn as well, but training your taijutsu should also improve your chakra reserves and control. Naruto frowned. You wouldn't mind that, he said surprised. I mean, most people. This training isn't fit for most people, Tenten replied sarcastically, not understanding the point Naruto wanted to make to Guy. Besides, wouldn't it be training on your own? Yes, I guess, Naruto said softly, surprised that anyone would make him such an offer. Perhaps, if you guys don't mind, I could join you another morning. Next week maybe. Why don't you join us every other day? Guy laughed at the surprised Genin, who opened his eyes as widely as Rock Lee had them all of the time. You need to train in your other arts as well. Besides, I heard something about Cage Bunshin. Those would be ideal for Tenten's target practice. Chapter 6. Cats and Rocks. What happened to you? Sakura looked disapprovingly as Naruto came near. And why are you so late? You know we were supposed to meet up a while ago. Training. Naruto sighed, wondering if that wasn't obvious already. Right. Sasuke smirked like the sight of the dirt-covered Naruto was a big joke. You could at least have cleaned yourself first. Either a shower or food. Chose food, Naruto grumbled, before sitting down. Naruto's expectation about Kakashi being late again came true. Not that he cared much, as he found it rather amusing to see Sasuke's annoyance. Naruto wondered if Sakura would ever realize that the object of her affections did not like to talk. Probably not. Naruto quickly dozed off, enjoying the moment of peace after 4 hellish hours of training. He really understood why Tenten had been like that the day before. If you had to go through this every morning, and then still had to do missions with both Guy and Lee around. Naruto was not very surprised she had developed a more strict nature, with the need to continuously slow the green-clad duo down before they went out of control again. Naruto felt the warm sun, and the gentle breeze, and sighed. He just made it himself a bit comfortable. Well deserved, he thought. Sorry about being late, Kakashi said, what had to be at least half an hour after, looking at the position of the sun. Good evening, sensei, Naruto said sarcastically, opening his eyes. Just in time, our poor Sasuke-kun almost got a seizure from anger. They each had described, briefly, how they planned to train themselves. Something at which Kakashi had made several additions, for instance at the theory Sakura had planned to study. Or better, the lack of physical training she had planned for. Kakashi advised at least 2 hours of hard physical training each day, claiming that theory and knowledge alone were insufficient. He had frowned when Naruto had explained what Guy proposed. Quite unusual for a Jonin to approach another Jonin student, Kakashi remarked. But I don't mind. Guy's taijutsu is probably the best in the whole of Konoha. If not the whole world. Don't tell him I said so, though. He takes that rivalry stuff way too far. But, I approve of your schedule, Naruto. Just a word of warning. Guy is rather insane when it comes to training, so it's not yet too late to back off. Though, Kakashi did not add that a large part of his surprise was due to the fact that Guy hardly ever accepted students. Despite his peculiar persona, the man was actually rather secretive about his skills and training methods. Guy didn't just do this because of his rivalry with me, he is not that petty. No, he must be convinced that Naruto has quite some potential in taijutsu if he decided to include him with his daily training. If that's true, only genjutsu would be a weak spot for him. When you look at them, I guess Sasuke is more all-round in terms of talent, though not as exceptional as Naruto in several aspects. I knew Naruto was a monster when it comes to chakra reserves, but I expected him to have a whole lot more trouble with controlling it. The Hyuga really did well with training him. Good, he continued after approving Sasuke's schedule. Then we start doing our missions today. Each day we will meet at 1, in front of the Hokage's office. Sakura. He blinked, somewhat surprised why the genin had put up her hand. Sensei, why don't we agree to meet at 12? Sakura suggested politely, while scowling enough to make it abundantly clear she was fed up with waiting each and every time. That way, you are still more or less on time when you finally show up, Sasuke agreed, showing his lingering annoyance. Naruto nodded, not really caring because he had already decided to never show up right on time with the sluggish Jonin. Well, that's fine as well, Kakashi replied sheepishly. As I was saying, we meet in front of the office building, and take missions each day. Now, I brought some communication devices along for you guys, take some time to get used to them so you can properly use them during the missions. Remember, my cute little genin, communication is vital for teamwork, so use this wisely, at least until you get used to each other to such a degree you don't need words anymore. Chasing cats. Pulling weeds. Collecting and disposing of garbage. Chopping wood. When do we get a real mission? Sasuke grumbled after they had just reported to the Hokage about their successful weed disposal mission. Every genin is assigned D-rank missions until they are capable of handling the more difficult C-rank missions, Sarutobi Hiruzen remarked. And until your sensei says you are ready for those more difficult missions, you will either do these missions, or quit being a shinobi, he added with a strict tone. Sasuke-kun didn't mean it like that, Sakura quickly stuttered, trying to help out her crush. Naruto just looked away, bored by his team just as much he was by the missions. Right now, the morning trainings with Guy were more interesting than the actual missions. Not to mention more dangerous. Especially when Tenten started with her target practice. Hiruzen smirked. Well, technically this is still a D rank, but there have been some, let's call it unexpected troubles. Team 8 encountered some unknown resistance while tracking down a creature that was harassing a nearby farm. Kurenai requested some backup to properly search the area, so Team 7 will head out and aid them. I'm sure Naruto's skill with the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu will come in handy when they need more eyes. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Kakashi bowed after receiving the scroll with the mission's details, and left, followed by his students. But not before Naruto and Hiruzen exchanged thoughtful looks, whereby Hiruzen realized that Naruto was not taking his team very seriously. Team 7 had packed up so it could spend the night outside Konoha. Because of the unknown nature of the threat that Team 8 had encountered on their mission, Kakashi had decided that they would set out as soon as possible, and had stated that it would be unlikely that they would return on the same day. Luckily, Team 8 was not far from Konoha, thought it would have been a C-ranked mission if it had been outside of Konoha's protection. Kakashi set the pace, quickly followed by the overexcited Sakura. Naruto wondered if her excitement was because she would spend night out near Sasuke, who didn't look too happy with the mission. Other than that, Naruto was walking behind his teammates, being rather bored by the whole thing. He had left a Bunshin at the Hyuga estate with enough chakra to last 2 days, or so he estimated, so that he could still study some of his scrolls, warn Tenten that he couldn't join training tomorrow, and help Haruki and Akko whenever they needed him. Maybe I should just have sent a clone, and stayed home myself. Too bad Kakashi-sensei can somehow tell the difference between the Bunshin and me. I wonder how he figured that out, Naruto pondered, thinking back at when he had just sent a clone to do the team missions, and Kakashi had responded quite annoyed that Naruto wasn't taking this seriously. Well, not like Naruto cared too much. So far, the Jonin had done little to earn his loyalty. The man's blatant disinterest towards his students only caused the same response in Naruto. They finally arrived at the camp set up by Team 8, who did not seem very surprised by their arrival. Naruto imagined that Kiba's keen senses and Hinata's eyes would have spotted them long ago. Greeting Kakashi-senpai, Kurenai spoke. We've prepared food for you and your team. Naruto-kun. Hinata spoke up, when Naruto was standing on the edge of their camp, staring into the darkness of night. They were already at a dense forest, but at night time. Naruto thought it was a beautiful silence. Much better than in a town. Hinata-sama. Naruto shook up from his thoughts. Did you like dinner? She asked shyly. Dinner. Yeah, dinner was great. Not like Ichiraku's heavenly ramen, but a damn lot better than I had expected from camping outdoors. Naruto smiled at the hesitant Hyuga heir, who was glad that it was dark, concealing her blush. After all, he complimented her cooking. Thank you, she tried not to stutter. So, there is something out there that killed cattle, and it is somehow capable of evading you guys. Why yes. Hinata looked down. There is no scent. Kiba-kun can't track it. Nor Shino-kun. Whoever it is, it managed to evade all the Kikai Shino-kun has sent out. And I. Naruto looked at the face of the sad girl, who seemed to be disappointed in herself. So what information did you guys find? The tracks looked like those made by cats. Or one cat. Only, it is too big. And a cat doesn't attack and eat an entire goat, Hinata frowned. And bigger cat-like creatures like lions or tigers shouldn't be around here. I see. Naruto nodded. Perhaps someone left fake tracks. No, these guys are far too good to fall for that. Perhaps someone who used the Henge no Jutsu. No, why would a shinobi eat goat meat? Raw, Naruto mused. Perhaps it really is some kind of monstrously big cat. But that would mean that, with nothing else around, I should be able to track it down because of its intent to kill, whenever it sets out to hunt. Down here, without all the interference that I feel inside the village, it might work. Thank you, Hinata-sama. Let's go back to camp. It's been a long day. Naruto faked a yawn. Hinata nodded, and for some reason Naruto could not fathom, she suddenly started blushing so furiously that she could see it, despite there being very little light to see. Had she been a little older, a little tickle of blood might have run down her nose, at the idea of sleeping in the woods together. Hinata had bad luck, and drew the second shift of guard duty. The fact that absolutely nothing seemed to happen made it quite the boring task. Luckily, Sakura took over after 2 hours had passed. But before Hinata could fall asleep in her tent, she heard something. Byakugan, she whispered softly, after doing the required hand seals, not wanting to wake Kurenai, who she shared her tent with. Naruto-kun. What is he doing? She thought when she spotted him leaving camp. Following Naruto at some distance, Hinata wondered how the boy could see where he was going. Moreover, how it could be that he walked so purposefully towards his goal. Team 8 had scouted the entire area several times now, during the last few days, but found nothing. And how could Naruto-kun sense something here? It must be around here. I can feel it, Naruto thought. It's left. He turned towards his target. But whatever the creature was, despite the weak scent of malice Naruto could detect, it seemed to keep away from him. It watched him, sensed his approach, but for some reason it did not run off. Kuchio's no jutsu, Naruto whispered. In a puff of smoke a small toad appeared. What complete retard dares to summon me in the middle of night? Naruto, you crazy son of a rainworm. Gamakichi exclaimed, while Naruto frowned seeing the bizarre nightcap that the tiny toad wore. Just as his little vest had been replaced by ugly PJs. Hush, Naruto whispered. Something is near. And it seems unusual to me, not a regular animal at least. Can you figure out what kind of creature it is? Quite smart. For a human, something laughed sarcastically. Tell me, how did you find me? Who or what are you? Everyone has some evil, Naruto said towards the figure that spoke from the dark. It was a feminine voice, but it was clearly not human. And the same question to you. What the heck are you? So you can sense evil. Interesting. Very interesting. And here I wanted to go out to hunt. I suppose that gave me away. But I never heard of any of you two legs who could do that. And you can summon the toads from Mount Myoboku too. Indeed you are an intriguing little two-leg. So who are you, and why did you attack the animals in this area? Naruto asks, curious how the voice knew of Gamakichi. Sounds like one of the Bakeneko tribe, Kichi added. Rather dangerous folk. They like to play with their food. That is a good guess, the voice replied. A large black and white cat stepped forward from behind a tree, and in the moonlight Naruto's sharp eyes saw how much larger it was than an ordinary cat. The creature was about 5 foot long, and had an unusually long tail. Its fur was pitch black, apart from a few wild spots on its belly, and the right front leg which also was pure white. Bakaneko. Naruto misheard, thinking that Gamakichi was talking about stupid cats, baka meaning stupid. Bakeneko, you deaf fool, Gamakichi scolded him. The toad had jumped on top of Naruto's head as soon as the cat revealed itself. A tribe of large cats, they can grow old and possess a basic level of control over their chakra. Not the most renowned tribe of summoning species, but they have rather specific contracts between an individual of their clan and their summoner. Too specific, the cat sighed, barely able to suppress the bitterness from her voice. The idiot who summoned me died on me, and in my inexperience I had not made a condition in the contract that the contract would end upon his death, so on top of it all I became an oath breaker, an outcast amongst my clan. An outcast? Seriously? Naruto frowned. So if I would die right now, Kichi would. No. Gamakichi spoke up. We toads have a different contract. But like I said, they make contracts on an individual basis, while we have the same contract for the few people who we allow to summon us. Those specific contracts they form also have downsides. So they are indeed baka, Naruto smirked. Well fine, I understand your position, but why are you raiding this area? And how should I call you, anyway? I assume you have a name. The cat tilted its head, as if it became curious because of what Naruto said. Obviously, she had expected him to behave differently. Unexpected. Very unexpected. Humans usually treat us summoned beings differently. Few see us as their equals. I am not really human anyway, Naruto shrugged. But that's beside the point, and you did not answer my question. I see, the cat said on a thoughtful tone. When I sensed a great danger approach, I thought my time had come, though I guess saying that I felt admiration would be more fitting than fear. Alright, I will tell you. The cat stepped forward, until it was barely a meter away from Naruto. Hinata stopped her chase, and hid behind a nearby tree. Naruto was talking with something. She saw 3 different patterns of chakra, one being Naruto, and the smaller one being identical to the toad she once saw him summon, which sat on top of Naruto's head. But the third pattern was strange. Cloaked, nearly completely concealed, even to her Byakugan. And it was quite a large creature. Naruto-kun, the shy girl thought, afraid he was in danger, but not sure if he needed her help. If he had raised his chakra, she would have jumped in without hesitation. But Naruto was too relaxed. It didn't look like he saw the creature as a threat. My name is Chi, the cat spoke. Like the toad said, I am one of the Bakeneko tribe. Or at least, I used to be. To answer your question, yes, I killed and ate several of those weak 4-leghorn heads. Why? Because I was hungry. I needed to consume meat. To keep up this large form I need to survive out here, on my own. Chi, Naruto mused. Chi means wisdom. I wonder if it is a name she chose, or got from her clan. She sounds proud enough for the first. So, you were an outcast and killed those animals as your prey in order to survive, Naruto summarized. And you have a smaller form. Yes, she said softly. I am only a few decades old, so I am still rather small. Seriously, Naruto exclaimed. You're twice my age. 2 legs grow quicker, she said with an amused voice. Perhaps that is why their brain is so underdeveloped. But what do you plan to do, abnormal 2-leg boy? The name's Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto. My mission was to stop whatever killed that farmer's cattle. It did not specify how we were supposed to stop you, and as a fellow outcast, I do not intend to hurt you either. Naruto scratched his chin, frowning as he thought of a solution to this situation. Kichi, if I remember correctly, I cannot sign more contracts, right? So I wouldn't be able to send her home. You can only have the toad contract, Gamakichi admitted. I believe signing another contract is a violation of your contract with us. Wait, you would be willing to sign a contract with me? An oath breaker. Chi acts, not managing to contain her surprise. I am sorry, Chi, but I cannot break my contract with the toads. I gave them my word, Naruto admitted. And I do not take back my word, but I can do something else. How big are you normally? That's a very rude question to ask a woman, Chi chuckled. About the same size as those pathetic cats the 2 legs keep around their houses. A bit bigger, but not so much that it seems unnatural. Only my tail is much longer than those of my lesser cousins. So how would you like to live at my place? Naruto suggested. I know it is not your own home, but at least it should be better than living out here, right? Chi blinked and looked from Naruto's face up to Gamakichi. Hey, don't look at me. I am no dinner, the toad quickly croaked. Toads are not on my menu anyway, much too slimy, Chi joked. But is this guy serious? Naruto. He's an oddball, but he is dependable. I see, but why would he? Listen, Naruto urged. You already said you noticed something is odd about me, right? That is why the other humans treat me like I am scum. I know what it is to be discarded, and it is not a good feeling. So how could I abandon you here? But if you are not willing to. No, she cut him off. I will accept. I am not as foolish and short-sighted as you 2 legs are. Well, the ordinary 2 legs. She seemed to shrink drastically. Not like a normal henge, which disappeared in a puff of smoke, but she really shrank down as if Naruto was watching years of natural growth being reversed. This is my real form, she said. If you are willing to accept me, I shall honor you as I did my master, despite the absence of contracts, Naruto-sama. Please, no honorifics, Naruto smiled at the now small cat. She had shrunk down to a cat only a little bigger than the cats Naruto had seen in Konoha, only her tail was nearly double the length of a normal cat. Not to mention, regular cats did not talk back. If you truly want to honor me, you have to treat me like a friend. As you command, Naruto-sama. Just joking, the cat laughed mischievously. So, I can go now. Gamakichi yawned. Pops will go mad if I fall asleep during my lessons tomorrow. Sure, Kichi. Thanks for the help, I'll make sure I'll have some snacks next time I summon you. Sleep well. Naruto thanked the toad before he puffed into a cloud of smoke when he went back to Mount Myoboku. Shall we go back to camp as well, Chi-chan? Calling a female twice your age, Chan. Chi started. Chi-bachan. Oh right. You are joking too. Cheeky two-leg. I always keep misunderstanding the expressions you two legs have on your strange faces. Though I have to admit, your whiskers make it easier for me to understand you. I never knew two legs had them. They don't, Naruto said as he turned around. I told you, I am different. She nodded and jumped on Naruto's shoulder, wrapping her long tail around his neck in order to hold onto him. This will go faster. Oh, and there is another two-leg nearby. A friend of yours. Well, she is sneaking up on us, actually. Quite rude. As Naruto stood there, Hinata was torn. He had slipped away from their camp, so he obviously wanted to do this on his own. One of the things the Hyuga hammered into their children at an early age was an immense respect for another's privacy. A necessary thing to teach people with eyes who see through pretty much everything. But right now the Hyuga heiress was rather curious what Naruto and the creature were talking about. But Naruto-kun has sharp senses. He will notice me. What just happened? Hinata thought as saw the creature suddenly shrink down into a form which was hardly bigger than a regular cat. Hinata tried to get closer as quiet as she possibly could. It took her a moment of hesitation before her curiosity got the better of her shyness. A moment of pondering in which she closed her eyes. Hinata-sama. Naruto suddenly spoke up from behind her. The cat on Naruto's shoulder seemed to laugh when Hinata jumped nearly a meter up, with a loud, eek. Na Naruto-kun. How? Shunshin no jutsu. Naruto shrugged. Why were you following me? Weren't you on guard duty? Saw Sakura-san relieved me. I saw why you walk away, Naruto-kun. How much did you hear? She was too far away to listen, the cat spoke. Hinata looked at the cat with an open mouth. What? You two legs have such big heads, yet your ears hear so little, and would you stop looking at me like that, white-eyed two-leg? The cat sighed. Hinata-sama, meet Chi-chan. Chi-chan, Hinata-sama, Naruto introduced them to each other. She was the one who we were after, but it was all a bit of a misunderstanding. Either you stop with that, Chan, or I will put my claws in your face, she said with some annoyance. Proud little bastard, Naruto smirked. Talking, cat. No abakaneko ow, Naruto said when she extended her claws for a moment. Not that Naruto minded much, as the small punctures healed nearly instantly. Bakeneko, he chuckled. She was in trouble when the guy who had summoned her died. She had to survive out here, so that's why she attacked the cattle. She was just hungry. So, I'm going to take her with us. Akko-san loves cats, so she won't mind. Akko-san. She asked curiously. You'll meet her soon enough, Naruto explained. Though I should warn you not to be rude to her. That would be rather painful, Naruto shivered a little at the memory. Now, shall we go back to our camp? I really want to get some sleep now. I'm exhausted. What do you mean? The mission is over. Kakashi blinked with his visible eye, after Naruto woke everyone up in the morning. He had the last shift with keeping guard. Everyone, Naruto said dryly to the cat next to him. They all looked down at the cat that was staring back at them, and then they looked up at Naruto as if he was insane. Have completely lost it, Sakura exclaimed. What are you thinking, you moron? I see Pinky Two-Leg has quite the big mouth. Might it be because she wants to overcompensate for her lack of skill? She remarked sarcastically. Weaklings usually shout the loudest. Sensei. What? Kiba started. She is one of the Bakeneko tribe, summoned here, and after the guy who summoned her died, she was trapped. She was the one who ate the cattle, because she was hungry and wanted to survive. Naruto monotonously repeated the story. I convinced her to come along with us, and offered her to stay at my place. So that is why I said that our mission was done. I see. Kurenai frowned, trying to understand the situation. But how did she kill those goats? How did she manage to avoid capture? And how did you find her? I can shape-shift, red-eyed two-leg, she replied. And in my larger form, killing those four-leg hornheads is simple. She demonstrated this by shortly changing into her adult form, shocking most of the shinobi present. Only Naruto had seen it before, and Hinata knew to some degree what to expect. But especially Akamaru was badly shaken. To see a cat of his own size suddenly grow like that, it would be the inspiration for many nightmare for the poor young ninkin. Chi-san indeed has chakra, and chakra control, Hinata confirmed, blushing when the other turned their attention to her. I saw her, after Naruto found her, last night. What were you two doing out in the woods, in the middle of night? Shino frowned. I heard something. Naruto shrugged, ignoring Hinata's stuttered protest. So I went looking and found she. Kakashi looked sharply at his genin. I see, but you will not wander on your own at night again, Naruto. Not without warning someone else. You got that? Did one-eyed two-leg think I would attack Naruto-sama? She tilted her head, making her surprise obvious to the others. But neither Akamaru nor I can smell it, Kiba frowned. Did you think I would allow mere flea-ridden dog to hunt me down? She scoffed. Are those insects cloaky two-leg over there tried to use to locate me? Did you think I didn't smell your chakra on them? I am not as stupid as you two legs are. She jumped onto Naruto's shoulder, using her long tail in order to keep her balance again. Why don't you listen to Whisker two-leg, and go home? I admit I am rather curious to see my new home. And the promise of food is rather alluring. The others looked at each other. Kiba's annoyance was obvious, because of by the way Chi looked down on dogs. Shino frowned a bit because of the nickname, Cloaky. Let's go then. Sasuke broke the silence, walking to his tent. Grumpy two-leg, she said sarcastically, laughing when she saw Sasuke freeze and twitch his face a little. Let's go to that farmer, and tell him we completed the mission, Kakashi sighed. If Naruto trusts her. The report Hokage-sama gave me mentioned that he could sense the evil in others. And it all fits perfectly with what Kurenai told yesterday. It must be how he managed to track her down. Agreed, Kurenai nodded. And then go home, she rubbed her head, not completely understanding the situation. If Kakashi believes the boy, she thought, remembering the mistrustful nature of the Jonin. And so the teams returned home, with Naruto almost wearing the cat-like some kind of furry scarf around his neck. Pinky two-leg, the boy smirked to himself. She surely picks funny nicknames. Kakashi was a bit more hopeful a few weeks later. Though D-rank missions could hardly be called a challenge, they did provide the opportunity to train teamwork. Sakura excelled because she knew each and every tactic or strategy which they had learned at the academy. Sasuke proved to be equally intelligent, though more silent. Still, his growth was remarkable. Of course, it was no secret to Kakashi why Sasuke was so motivated. Naruto's strength and growth continued to surprise him. Though he imagined part of Naruto's growth was due to Guy's training regime, Kakashi also knew Jinchuriki were supposed to be capable of wielding unimaginable amounts of chakra. And he had hidden most of his talent before now. But for a 12-year-old boy to reach this level, how strong is that seal? Kakashi worried. Kakashi realized that it would be difficult to keep control over such a power. Not for the first time, Kakashi wondered if the rivalry between Sasuke and Naruto would be healthy on the longer term, because it seemed it could only end up in frustration for one person. Though, Kakashi was happy Naruto left Chi at home during missions. The mischievous cat only created more tension in the team with her sarcastic remarks. It seemed to like to annoy and embarrass both Sasuke and Sakura. It especially enjoyed Sasuke's reactions, savoring the time it took before the Uchiha lost his patience. Congratulations, you caught the cat again, a huge voice remarked sarcastically. Stay out of my head, Naruto hissed back. Why don't you ever shut up? For a long time now, Naruto was troubled by sounds only he could hear. First, he thought he was going nuts, but recently the sounds had gotten clear enough to hear its voice. And at times, the Kyuubi no Kitsune seemed to enjoy dragging Naruto towards the sewers he was trapped in, inside Naruto's own mind. Let's see. You have all those great missions for your noble village, with those incredible teammates of your, who never trust you. And yes, how could I forget that sensei whose fear of you can easily be sensed? They only respect you because of strength. My strength, the monster added pointedly. I knew how people act before Team 7. I knew how they were before they were teammate. So I did not expect anything else, so shut you damn mouth you darn fox. The Kyuubi smiled at Naruto's anger. Good. Only a little while more before he will start to crack. That blonde idiot and his seal, too bad I already killed him. I should have let him suffer first. Too bad there wasn't any time for it back then. Naruto sighed in relief, finally the fox had retreated. He saw Kakashi look at him. Everything all right Naruto? The Jonin asked with a hint of worry in his voice. Yeah, just a bit tired, Naruto lied. Kakashi didn't seem to buy it, but didn't pry any further either. All right team, today's mission will be removing those boulders over there. They broke of the mountainside last week, and the villagers want to open this road again. Kakashi pointed at the tiny village which they could see in the distance. This mountain path had been the quickest way to reach Konoha. The rockslide made a long detour necessary. Seems like the villagers already removed the smaller rocks, Sakura said. But how are we supposed to get rid of that huge one? Kakashi shrugged. Not really my problem, you guys wanted a mission outside the village. The Hokage gave me this one. Of course, Sakura could not argue against this, as it was Sasuke who asked for it, being completely fed up with the endless stream of D-rank missions. As she had predicted, Team 7 was able to remove all the rocks, except the largest one. Sasuke's Kaden was pointless, and so were Naruto's jutsus. Sakura tried frantically to calculate whether a leverage effect could be a solution, but there was not enough space. Nor any trees or anything else they could use as tools. Naruto sighed. Kakashi didn't seem willing to step up, and Naruto only knew one way to remove the boulder. And he had gotten frustrated enough with this mission. He had hoped the mission would at least have turned out to be a little more exciting than this. Question was, which one was strong enough to do the trick, but also willing to do the job? Naruto sighed again. Stupid missions. Could you guys step back please? Why? Sasuke asked with an annoyed tone. Well, just stay there if you want to get hit, Mr. Grumpy Two-Leg. Naruto made his impatience clear to all. Sasuke had come to hate that nickname more than anything. Just before he finished his hand seals, his teammates managed to bail. Kuchio's no jutsu, he exclaimed, to the great shock of Kakashi. A humongous toad appeared where Naruto was just a moment ago. His magenta-colored skin was covered with black markings. His black kimono was big enough to cover most buildings in Konoha. Wielding an enormous spear fork covered with spikes, the Susumata, and equally large shield, the toad was a terrifying creature to see. What on earth? Sasuke gritted his teeth in frustration. How? No matter what I do, why does he always stay so damn far away? Why is that idiot so strong? I am the genius, not he. He was just a loner with average scores, a nobody. For once, Sakura looked at Sasuke in order to notice his expression. The shock was too great for her to see anything other than the massive toad. How? Hyuga Maken. Naruto spoke completely carefree, revealing to the others that he was standing on top of the toad's head. Sorry to disturb you, but we had a little obstacle on our road. And since you spoke of more training. The massive toad's voice rumbled. I am still too clumsy and weak. Why didn't you call Gamabunta? Gamakichi told me you liked target practice. But if you don't wanna. Fine, fine. Tisk. That little tadpole and his big mouth, the toad grumbled. Naruto chuckled, knowing that despite his size, Ken was very shy. Always doubting his own strength, and hesitant to train near others. Strangely, Ken's behavior reminded Naruto of Hinata's shyness, and like how she recently tried to talk to him more and more. Something which she found rather amusing, though she would never tell Naruto why. The boy paled at the idea of the enormous toad fainting while he stood on top of head. Quickly jumping down, Naruto wished Gameken fun, and returned to his shocked teammates. How did you? Kakashi started, before being interrupted by the explosive sound of the toad's weapon bashing into the rock. How did you summon him, Naruto? What do you mean? I signed the contract, so why shouldn't I be able to? The teen replied in light surprise. As far as I recall, only Jiraiya-sama is capable of. Kakashi this time cut himself off, as he realized something. So it was Jiraiya-sama who taught you Fuinjutsu. He gave the means to learn it, yes. And he let me sign the contract. And promised me to keep silent about it as well, unless it would endanger the success of a mission. And I guess we would have failed the mission if I hadn't summoned Ken, Naruto added, while noticing Gameken's third strike had left a crack in the boulder. The fourth hit would probably split it. Or at least it would have been boringly long. I could have blown up the area, but that would only have made things worse. I mean, if I destroyed the entire path we would also fail our mission. Sakura and Sasuke were baffled. The history books they had to study at the academy spoke highly of the three, Sannin, as the team in which Jiraiya had belonged to became known. The Hokage's students, each as strong as a cage, all became legends both in and outside Konohagakure. The fact that such a legendary person had trained Naruto, only enraged Sasuke more. No wonder he was stronger. If he had such a trainer, he would easily surpass the runt. Noticing the looks of the others, Naruto felt a spike of anger. Hey, could you guys please stop looking at me like that? Not that the others could reply. The bounder had by split apart in a thunderous sound, and Gameken cheerfully continued to smash the remains so the humans could handle them. Well, I'll leave these pebbles to you, he croaked. Thanks for the fun, Naruto. No probs. Say hi to Kichi and Fukasaku-sama. Sakura was a bit confused at how friendly Naruto was to the toad. She always thought he was too silent and too much of a loner. Always keeping his distance to other, only talking when he needed to. She wondered how he really was. Between Sasuke and Naruto, I really am useless, she thought bitterly, while sighing deeply. They always do everything while I just stand here, watching at their backs, looking at them from a distance as they complete our missions. Kakashi knew he had a lot to discuss with his employer. Well then, let's clear the road, and collect our pay. At this rate, he knew Hiruzen would give them a real C-rank mission soon. With Kakashi reporting to the Hokage, the members of Team 7 were walking back through the main street. Sakura had asked Sasuke out on a date, but to Naruto's amusement he had bluntly refused. Not that it even rattled the girl's determination. Naruto had come to feel some admiration for her stubborn resolve, even though he found her affects itself rather childish. At least, she had never given Naruto the impression to really know anything about Sasuke. Other than the ideal image, the default knight in shining armor, she had of him. Naruto knew very well that Sasuke hid most of his real emotions, and that he wore a mask similar to like Naruto did. But by the looks of it, Sakura was not aware of that. Naruto sometimes wondered if he should tell her about this, but then again, she never really listened to him either. She'll figure it out soon enough, if nothing else, she is smart. Not that Naruto could blame the girl for not yet seeing though Sasuke's facade, as she never really had much trouble in her life. Her parents were good to her, and she had most of her family alive. It was a benefit that her clan was not very famous, and the majority of them were merchants and shop owners, rather than shinobi. It was not to be expected of someone of their age to understand a trauma which Sasuke had experienced. In fact, Naruto was not even sure if he really understood it himself. Unlike Sasuke, Naruto never had any family, so he did not really know the feeling of loss that Sasuke had experienced. Naruto-san. An enthusiastic voice rang through the street. Naruto looked back and saw Rock Lee charging towards them, with a more composed Tenten following him. Where have you been? You missed a most youthful training this morning. Sensei even tested us if we could open the. Tenten bashed him on the head, and as usual she was not holding back anything. Sakura looked a bit worried at the dazed and confused green-clad genin. Lee, do you even remember what Guy-sensei made us promise before we starting with that training? Tenten sighed. Use that brain of yours for once. Well, with you knocking him out all of the time, It wouldn't surprise me if his brains have gotten damaged by now, Naruto smirked. Sorry for not showing up today, guys. We had a mission, he gestured at Sasuke and Sakura. Ah, you must be Naruto's teammates, Tenten smiled, keeping her eye on Sasuke for a moment. I'm Tenten, and this idiot is Rock Lee. Naruto often trains with us during the morning. Even though we. Oh no. Not again. Lee, don't. She facepalmed. Lee's eyes were fixed on Sakura, who seemed uncomfortable under his gaze. Lee walked up to her, and Sakura tried not to back away. Hi, my name is Rock Lee. So yours is Sakura. Let's go out together. I'll protect you, till I die. This seemed to be the last thing Sakura ever expected. No way, you're lame. Sasuke chuckled. Naruto suspected that the Uchiha saw the irony of her response, rejecting Lee in the same manner as Sasuke himself often did when she asked him out. And just like Sakura, Lee's disappointment was also short-lived, and the fire in his eyes indicated he was determined and would not give up. Ever. Lee isn't lame, Sakura. Naruto tried not to smirk too much. He's probably on his way to become the Leaf's taijutsu master, just like Guy-sensei. Though, I admit he has funny brows, he couldn't contain his laughter any longer. No offense, bushy brow. None taken, Lee frowned a bit. But I'm far from being as good as Guy-sensei is. You won't say. Seems like that freakish stamina of yours is getting close of that of Guy-sensei, Naruto frowned. Seriously, those two are monsters. He added, looking at Sasuke and Sakura. Lee looked quite uncomfortable, not being used to receive compliments. Tenten bent over to pet a cat that walked up to her. 2 legs, Ako-sama asked you to help her with the groceries, it suddenly spoke up. You're back, so I take it your mission is over. She continued, ignoring the now screaming Tenten, and Sasuke who scowled upon seeing the cat again. For some reason, Sakura saw the boy tightening his fist around a kunai. No, mission is done, Naruto replied on a casual tone, as if talking cats were completely normal. I'll be right there. Want a lift? No thanks, I think I'll wander around for a bit. If I don't move around enough I have to get on a diet just like Pinky Two-Leg, she added with a mocking tone. Not that Grumpy would ever notice, she added before running off. That damned creature. Sasuke gritted his teeth, turned around, and stomped away. See you guys tomorrow, he grunted, not looking back. Of course, with Sasuke walking away, it was easy to predict that Sakura would quickly follow. And she did. Nice team, right? Naruto remarked, the sarcasm being understood by Tenten, but not by Lee, who nodded while looking at Sakura. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow, at least, if I don't have any mission that takes me outside Konoha again, Naruto sighed. Kakashi-sensei muttered something about C-rank missions. Well, anything beats these boring D ranks. A freaking waste of time, if you ask me. Traveling is fun, Tenten smiled. You'll see all kinds of strange places they never teach you about on the academy. Naruto shrugged. Perhaps. Still don't want to trade Neji for me. Tenten blushed a bit, while Lee looked torn. Sorry, but Guy-sensei told me that transfers between team are very unusual, Lee spoke up. I see. Hiruzen pondered, after hearing Kakashi's story. Jiraiya mentioned teaching Naruto, but apparently he forgot to mention the contract. I honestly believed that the Bakeneko had become Naruto's summon, but it seems things are not that simple. Hokage-sama, is this contract this? Along with the slugs and snakes, the toads belong to the 3 most powerful summonable species. It is said that these 3 species hold secrets handed down to them from the time of the Sage of the 6 Paths himself. Jiraiya's power is a testament to that. That, in turn, also means that they do not allow many people to sign the contract. Kakashi was impressed, especially because he noticed the look of relief on the old man's face. It seems like your students grow quickly, Kakashi. I have heard some good stories about Sasuke's development. I guess I should not give you any more D ranks now. Let's see, Hiruzen said, as he rummaged through the box with files. Ah, here it is. This one is an escort mission to the Land of Waves. A bridge builder need to get back home, but is scared of bandits. Should not be too difficult, I think. But be careful with Naruto, even though I think it is unlikely, it might be a possibility that the other nations want to capture him, considering his status as Konoha's Jinchuriki. Though I doubt most would want to risk upsetting the balance between the villages, Kumo already has 2 fully trained Jinchuriki, they might want to exploit that. Impressive, Sakura, Ino said happily when Sakura told her the news. You really are lucky with such a strong team, aren't you? Well, maybe. Sakura wasn't sure what she had to say to her friend. They hadn't spoken for a while, and both decided not to bring up Sasuke when they were just with the two of them. Especially now that she had been lucky with him on her team, while Ino had gotten a different team. Kakashi-sensei is definitely strong, but doesn't seem very interested in us at all. Well, we both know Sasuke-kun is great. He definitely is the strongest and most talented of our class. But Naruto. Something is odd about him. Naruto. Ino frowned. That loner. He never ever speaks to other if he doesn't have to, and distances himself from all the other whenever he can. In all those years, I never really figured him out. That was quite frustrating, actually. Even Hinata wouldn't tell me anything about him. I know, Sakura admitted. Things aren't any different during missions. He doesn't care, and everything just seems too annoying to him. I know that. You should hear Shikamaru talk. Not like Shikamaru. Sakura smiled softly, thinking of their lazy classmate. Naruto is absolutely not lazy. He just seems to be bothered to be around other people. So he never really takes the initiative during our missions, only if we cannot figure out how to do it. I mean, I heard rumors that he hid his abilities during the academy, Ino revealed. I thought they were nonsense. I mean, we're talking about Naruto. How could he defeat someone like the famous Kakashi? Those rumors are very real, Sakura sighed. If I have to be honest, I suspect that Naruto is even stronger than Sasuke-kun is right now. What? How can you? You talked about how lucky we were with Kakashi-sensei, the pink-haired girl cut off her friend. Well, Naruto just caught him off guard while Kakashi-sensei wanted to test us on our first day. And I think he was not even serious either. Well, Kakashi-sensei also said he was hold back, but still. Ino whistled. But how is it, to be around Sasuke-kun every day? She decided to switch to the very subject that she was so curious about. Did you learn anything new about him? And don't you dare to keep him all to yourself, you forehead. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video, as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists. Hope you would like them too.